This is Dirt and Sprague.
Fourth quarter's been Jalen Williams time too, Michael. Edwards to the rim! An unreal throwdown from Anthony Edwards with 1:57 to go in this fourth quarter.
With Andy Dirt Johnson and Brendan Sprague.
Blazers lead this one by 3. And there's another lob and another hammered up with two hands. Another beautiful feed from Malcolm Brock.
Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
All right, 6:02 in the Rose City. Time for Dirt and Sprague on Portland's sports leader, 1080 The Fan. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Good morning.
What's going on?
How we feeling? Are we caffeinated today?
Yes.
Thank our lucky stars. I was so worried about you yesterday.
It was, yeah.
We didn't know our coffee machine had been repossessed. You know what's funny is I said that a couple times yesterday to some coworkers. I ended up explaining it to my wife, and I used that word, and I said, well, I actually don't think by definition there was more of a miscommunication. But I said that to a couple coworkers, and they were so offended that I said that. I was like, yeah, we had our coffee machine repossessed. I'm like, oh, it wasn't repossessed. And I go, well, I mean, sure, but
It was here.
I just found it an odd thing. Like,
We didn't remove it of our own accord.
So
how would you explain it?
Well, I find it interesting. Words like that offend people.
I know.
And they don't realize it until they hear it, and they hear like, oh, how dare you say it that way? Like, I've actually watched my car get repossessed. Not me, but I remember I woke up one day and I went outside. I was waiting for my mom to take me to school because I had missed the bus. And I had went outside. Her car was gone. And I came back in, and I'm like, hey, where'd you park your car? And she goes, what do you mean? It's in the driveway. I go, no, it's not. It's gone. She scrambles. She looks out the window. It's not there. I go outside. I'm like, there's no glass. Nothing looked like it was broken into. And she comes outside, and she looks around. She drops an S-bomb. She turns. She walks past me and says nothing. And I'm like, yo, where's your car? And she ignored me for like 5 minutes and then eventually figured out a way to get me to school. And then later that day, I had told a friend what happened. And a buddy goes, oh, yeah, your car got repossessed. And I was like, what does that mean? And he's like, basically like, yo, you didn't make any car payments. They take your car. And I told my mom this, and she like kind of admitted yes, but she didn't want me to know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's okay for you to tell me if our car was repossessed. She's like, well, I'm not proud of it. And I'm like, well, yeah, nobody would be.
Nobody would be.
I don't think you did. I don't think you wanted that to happen. So I words like that don't shock me or put me in some kind of weird little negative defensive stance. And so I say it yesterday, and I got coworkers actually getting offended by it. No, it wasn't. Okay. All right. Well, it's not here anymore. So that's kind of the point of the whole thing. But it's nice to be in here, and I'm glad you got your coffee today.
Yes, got a little coffee this morning, so.
Did you happen to, I don't know if you did because you're a busybody. Did you see Dirt's tweet yesterday?
No.
He announced to the world.
Do we have a middle name? That was the only question.
Would you like to know the name?
Yes.
So I'll give you.
More importantly, the actress would like to know the name.
The actress would like to know the name. I will give you one guess, just for funskies. It is, hold on. It is, I will try to tee up this way. It's possibly the oldest white name you could maybe choose of all the combinations. Okay, so old and white. I need you to think, old, white, what could I name my kid to say he's not actually one, he's 97 years old?
Okay.
Which is very fitting for his dad,
Yes.
by the way, because his dad is basically an 88-year-old.
Yes. Theodore Benjamin.
Ooh, Benjamin's not a bad guess. Older.
William.
I will say, think of the 1800s.
I'm trying.
The late 1800s. Oh, you're kind of in the ballpark right now. Milton.
Milton.
Theodore Milton Johnson. He is a president from 1887.
There you go.
He's running on strong policy.
Milton.
I don't
take a stapler.
Yeah, he did do that to his kid. Milton, my stapler. I'm going to call that kid Stapler. Lil Milton.
Lil Milt.
Teddy Ballgame. The kid's going to have a million nicknames for himself.
Yep. TM. He can go by his nickname.
TM.
TM Johnson.
I'm not hating it. I love it. I don't know what the family. I think they may have done a family connection with the name Milton. I don't know. I haven't bothered him. I haven't texted him. I'm kind of in this weird stance of unless he reaches out, I'm not reaching out to him. I'm not going to bother.
I just want to make sure. I'm assuming, but it would be nice. We're home. Everybody's happy, healthy.
That's what his tweet was.
Thanks for everything. Oh, okay. So I'm assuming they have left the hospital by now.
My wife and I were thinking about that. I don't know if they have or haven't. I think he would leave today. I bet you they stayed last night. Although they are trying to turn and burn at hospitals now.
They try to turn and burn. So if there's no issues, extenuating issues that after they do the checks, usually it's a good 24 hours to check everything. They like to make sure that
but old Teddy Ballgame
are going to nurse that process is getting figured out before they let you go.
Yeah, but Teddy Ballgame was born at 9:30 at night. So 24 hours would have been last. I just think they stayed last night.
Maybe this morning.
Yeah, I would imagine they're leaving this morning, and old Milton is on his way to his house near the farm.
Yep.
As he gets ready for life on the prairie. I knew he was going to go with an old name somehow. Theodore's already great. I love Teddy Ball.
Theodore, yeah.
But he upped it a notch with that Milton middle name. He did send out a tweet basically announcing to the world,
here we are.
I got a kid. He put 4 pictures on it.
Okay.
One of the photos is interesting because...
Is that the one he sent us?
No, he went a step further than that one. Let me see if I can find this real quick. By the way, we're live on YouTube, youtube.com/1080thefan. You can find us there. Good morning. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us today. We got a mail sack to get to today, so any mail sack questions that you guys want to ask and have fun with us, you can do that. We'll get to that coming up at 8:15 today. Yeah, he sent out a picture. He said 4-star quarterback recruit Theodore Milton Johnson, class of 2042. Holy S, we're old. He said scouting report, good pocket presence, quick release into his diaper, needs to work on sleeping and latching. He said baby and mom are doing great. Anyone needs me, I'll be somewhere not sleeping. In one of the photos, and I think every dad can relate to this, they do the very big kids here get the emotional tie skin to skin thing.
Yeah.
He released the photo of him shirtless with his child. And so I just simply responded on the needs to work on sleeping and latching to put Theodore's mouth closer to his nipple. And then he would latch on okay. And I hope he enjoyed that comment. But it seems like everybody's doing okay.
Good.
He's a dad.
There you go.
It's terrifying to say that out loud, but I'm happy for him.
It'll be fantastic.
Old Theodore Milton.
Theodore Milton Johnson.
I might just start calling him by his middle name. I don't even know if Teddy Ballgame's going to be the nickname for me. Milt. How old are you, Milt? I'm 4. Okay. Did we shrink a 78-year-old man? I don't know. But
we need to teach him how to do numbers in Roman numerals.
You know, if I know anything about his dad, Milton's going to be rolling back from the opposite way of society. He's going to grow up reading the daily paper. He's going to watch or listen to local NPR reports. Today in downtown Portland. Like, he is going to be very old school, and that's what I kind of like about the name. I think it's going to suit him because I think his dad's going to take him to a better time. Not this internet crazed, social media obsessed way of life that we all live, where we're all screaming at each other on the internet.
I try to avoid it as much as possible. I do a pretty good job.
I think sometimes it's to the detriment to the show, but for the most part, I agree with you. I think you do a pretty good job. I've done this as well. I've unplugged the last couple weeks. I'm not on it as much. I missed most of whatever happened yesterday on the internet. Not the internet, but social media in general. I'm just finding.
I'm the TV generation. I got hooked by SportsCenter.
Sure.
When I was 10.
Swag. I didn't grow up with the internet.
Yeah.
I'm old enough to say I also only watched like ESPN, some of the Cartoon Network shows, Disney, all kids stuff, but Saturday morning cartoons. My kids don't know what that's like. Their cartoons on, but they don't know what it's like you can't watch this on the stream.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, I do miss that part of it.
Do you remember Ramblin' Rod?
Oh, yeah, Ramblin' Rod. I had a buddy that got on Ramblin' Rod. Never got on there. My cousin got on there. Yeah. I had somebody once, I was driving out to the seaside.
Give him a button.
He ended up getting what was that thing that they scanned every kid's
smile
face?
Cam or
the
whatever.
Smile cam.
Whatever they did with that.
Yeah. I saw my cousin on that when he was like 4 or 5 years old. Ramblin' Rod, absolutely. Northwest staple and icon. We were driving out to the coast once, and somebody pointed at a house just off 26, like kind of up on a hill, and it was like a man. Hey, that's Ramblin' Rod's house. And I'm like, how do you know that? Did you follow him home? Are there button trails near the house? Like, how can you possibly know that? And now it's easy to find out. But we are both of the TV generation, and I believe the social medias are rotting our brains. So I've become more and more disconnected with it personally. Still post things from time to time, but I'm not nearly on it the way I was.
No. It's not healthy.
And it feels, it's not healthy for you. It feels good. If all it does is make you miserable and angry and argumentative, just log off,
Exactly.
It ain't worth it.
No, I was assisting the wife with a project last night.
Yeah, you guys were acting out a movie role for her.
So, yeah, she's got, she gets request audition for stuff here and there, whatever, but it's a feature film that's going to be in Portland. So,
did she ever do any of the TV shows when they were filming here? The Portlandias?
She was
the Librarians or whatever that was called.
Yeah, she was.
Remember the ABC Forest fairy tale show? I think
it was the Librarian one she did. She was an extra, but she was in a wheelchair getting pushed through some dingy old.
That's all I want.
Ward.
That is all I want to do in my life, is to be somebody in the background with no lines, but I have guy is this, and this.
Yeah, the problem with like the Grimm, like if you were an extra in Grimm,
that's what it was.
So many of those things were like filmed in the middle of the night sort of stuff.
Sure.
So, I'm pretty sure it was the Librarians.
I had a buddy's sister. Her and her friend went down to downtown Portland, and they were filming that Tommy Lee Jones, Antonio.
Bandits, I believe that was?
No, not Bandits. Hunter.
Okay.
Hunted? Benicio del Toro and Tommy Lee Jones.
Okay.
Benicio was this guy murdering people up here. And anyways,
they were closing bridges for it at night.
There was a scene where there was a bunch of extras on the bridge because I think the city's in panic or something. I saw the movie. I don't remember it. And we watched it, and she points and she goes, right there, stop it. And she we couldn't zoom in the way we can on stuff anymore. She's like, right there. She just circles around, and you can kind of see the top of her head, but you can't tell. I'm in the movie. I'm like, okay. Yeah, you are by definition.
This is something that's a main role in a thing.
Oh,
so
star of the show. I like
fingers crossed.
Okay, fingers crossed. We got a busy show today.
Yeah. We hunted down Brady Henderson.
We did. Brady Henderson's going to join us at 8.
Assuming there's no breaking news.
I feel good. Nothing breaking like that usually happens during our show. It happens right after the show.
I'm hoping not, but
usually tees up right for Colin at 9 a.m. Brady's going to join us at 8, ESPN Seahawk beat writer. 2 teams don't have a coach. There's 2 teams left as of right now.
And they appear to be maybe have the same person at the top of both their lists.
They're on it feels like the 2-yard line. And I know that can be dangerous to hear if you're a Seahawk fan. Don't throw the football. But it seems like they're pretty close to a coaching hire. We'll talk with Brady Henderson at 8. And I asked a question on social media last night. I posted one on the show page. What is the better job, the Commies or the Seahawks? And a lot of people responded to this really, really quickly.
Yeah.
And I just wouldn't have operated that way. I would have taken my time to think about that for a couple minutes. Ultimately, I think I know where I land right now. But we'll dive into that today. I actually have a college football segment for you. You inspired me last night.
There you go. Well, I was I'm already looking ahead, trying to lay some groundwork for some things when the sports world slows down a bit.
We're a B1G radio station now.
Yes, we are.
And we have to act like it, so we will today. Mail sack at 8:15. We will not push that back. So any and all questions are welcome at the YouTube feed in the comments section or the Vancouver Ford text line 503-864-6326. We'll get to that coming up at 8:15. But let's get it going. Let's start locally. Let's start with the local stuff, a little local flavor here. Scoot Henderson does something, kind of historic for a rookie season. And the Blazers get a dub. We'll start there. Dirt and Sprague, good to be with you on this Tuesday on The Fan.
The Herd with Colin Cowherd. The Fan.
All right, welcome back in. Live on YouTube, Odyssey app, 1080 AM and 99.5 HD2. We have a lot to get into today. Harbaugh introduced to the world, finally, for the Chargers, unleashing hell on the internet yesterday. We'll get to that coming up. I want to start with the Portland Trailblazers. Your Portland Trailblazers last night, Swag. They beat the Philadelphia 76ers.
They did.
Yes, they did.
That was on. I watched a fair amount of it.
Okay.
Still doing some things. I was cooking and stuff while that was going on.
Okay.
So, and then I did not see much. I mean, it was in hand. Second and third quarters were as good as the Blazers have played, albeit no Tyrese Maxey, no Joel Embiid.
The two best players for Philly not playing.
But the Blazers took advantage of it. Jeremy Grant got cranked up. Brogdon to Ayton.
Yep.
Was a combination that the Sixers did not have an answer for.
It was nice to see him involved in lob passes. That largely has not been the thing since he's been here.
Yes.
That was a better dominating performance. So Sixers are pretty shorthanded last night. I thought you and I were texting about this because we talked very briefly at the end of the show about Embiid.
Yeah, and so then on NBA Today, Ramona Shelburne announced, nope, Embiid's out. He's got a knee thing. So apparently there's some swelling, some fluid buildup or something.
They're saying the report is that he came back too quickly from his tweak knee injury against the Pacers. And that's why he didn't play against Denver, even though I believe the injury report was very vague or misleading.
He wasn't on it initially.
That's what it was. And they're now being investigated. I thought it was hilarious, you and I talking at the end of the show, will he play, will he not play? And then it's announced that he's not, and you hit the nail right on the head. Because he has 5 games. If he misses 5 more games the rest of the season,
no postseason awards.
He's not eligible for MVP. That's a massive deal because he might be the favorite for the award this year.
My guess is there's a healthy bonus in his contract for it, too.
That's a very good guess.
Now, he is making, 40 or 50.
No, but the bonus still matters.
But, yeah.
And what did you text me?
They're on TNT tonight against the Warriors.
Oh, I wonder if that swollen knee is going to somehow magically heal itself. He took 2 games off. Yeah. That actually makes a lot of sense. And we don't know. Maybe he does sit it out. Maybe this will keep going and this injury's larger than we know. But I think for the most part, you hit the nail right on the head and described the NBA. You summed up the NBA perfectly with that text.
Yeah.
This is what the league is.
Big-time national TV games.
Yep.
That's what they're about.
And you cannot miss those windows. That was, by the way, an NBA TV game, and they couldn't flex out of it because Bill Walton was doing a simulcast where he was being Bill Walton during the game.
Fantastic.
Like a Manning cast, kind of, with Bill Walton. And so they couldn't flex out of that on NBA TV. You had Minnesota and OKC.
Yeah, fight for first place in the conference.
And that was a fantastic game.
Doc Rivers' coaching debut.
Against Denver, in Denver, Giannis and Dame against Jokic and company. League Pass games.
Yeah.
Because why would you want to air 2 teams squaring off for the 1 seed in the West or Giannis against Jokic? Why would you want to air those?
Exactly.
I hate this league.
Yeah. I think the NBA needs to revisit. I understand TNT wanting to lock. If they're going to have exclusive games where the league goes pretty much dark on the nights they have, whether it's Tuesday or Thursday, however they do it, those are pretty much, maybe sometimes there's one other game going on.
Sure.
But outside of that, they need to be more flexible with their, you have NBA TV. I would just a month at a time schedule stuff. Certainly the first month you have an idea and you think, okay, these should be quality matchups or whatever, but you never know who's going to go down with their knee falls apart or they blow an Achilles.
It's an interesting, I think it's a long-term interesting strategy to drive people more to the illegal streams than it is to give access to watch the games outside of League Pass. Yeah. I have League Pass. I'd assume most people don't that are listening or hanging out.
I don't because there's so much NBA normally available. TNT does.
Oh, I disagree with that.
2 or 3
100%.
games a week. ESPN does
2,
several games. Well, they're now doing.
Now they ramp up the Saturday stuff.
Well, but they're putting a game on ABC on Wednesday nights. I don't know if you caught that.
I did. We talked about it. Knicks Bulls was the first one.
Yeah.
That was their first choice, was Knicks Bulls. What a treat.
They need to quit tapping the big markets or the...
No, they're on the same 6 teams is the problem.
Yeah.
There's only 6 teams that exist. I think the media has a problem with this, too. They don't know how to cover the league. They cover the same players. They do trade stuff, and then it's the same teams. They don't cover anything.
They should be covering Minnesota and OKC, more Pacers.
Or Scoot Henderson's 24th quarter points. Hello.
Garbage time.
Wow. You know, I don't know what it is with you and Dirt. I got into it with a listener yesterday about Chauncey Billups, and I'll have those conversations. I don't know what it is with you and Dirt. Every time I bring this team up, you guys are just needling and waiting so you can crap all over it. They won last night.
It was a nice night for the fans.
Although they didn't beat a very strong Sixers team.
But can we keep some... The problem I have with, a fair amount of the Blazer faithful is the level of hyperbole they live in.
Okay, can you give me an example?
It was a nice night. It was nice for the fans to go and see them, and they were organized, but let's not claim that they've turned any corner. And Philadelphia sat their best 2 players, 2 all-star level players.
I would argue it actually wasn't great. It's great that fans get to see their team win. You paid for that ticket knowing that you were thinking you were going to see Joel Embiid play. Or Maxey at the minimum. Yeah. Who was the second best player on the Sixers yesterday? Was it Tobias? He had 9 points. Is it Pat Beverly? Was it Kelly Oubre, who may or may not have been hit by a car? That wasn't the real Sixers, you know?
Your boy Mo Bamba, though, got some minutes.
Mo Bamba, he played 19 minutes last night. Scoot had 20 points in the fourth quarter. I believe I saw from StatMuse no other rookie in this class has had 20 points in a fourth quarter yet.
It's nice to see him hit a 3.
That's kind of my take. It doesn't need to be this overarching, well, it's this and it's this and it's this. He saw the ball go through the hoop. That's all I care about.
I'm more and more with Dirt at this point. Now you've got Brogdon back in the starting lineup.
We need to trade him already. What are we doing?
Why are we so concerned about trying to win games at this point?
Because, Swag, haven't you heard? It's about morale. These rookies can't lose games. It's bad for growth. They can't possibly be good basketball players if they lose by 20. But they won last night. Jeremy had 27.
Yep.
Brogdon was really good. I think he had some nice dimes. You mentioned a couple of those to DA. DA, hey, 18 and 6, not bad.
I'm more like Jabari Walker's 12 rebounds.
Well, I've become quite a fan of Jabari. I think he's a dude.
I'm glad he's into the starting lineup.
I'm glad Tamani played more than 3 minutes.
Yes.
Looks like we were told something after that game. Yo, you got to play him more than 3 minutes. What are you doing here? But it was still a nice little one. I'm caught in the middle ground of hell here. Okay, let me walk people through.
Oh, they're in total purgatory.
No. If I mention the team, 2 people on the show I do tell me how stupid and irrelevant they are. Listeners tell me to not listen or not to watch. Stop giving this team your attention. I don't care. But then I do a podcast, and every little win, it's the biggest deal of all time. Scoot's amazing now. And then they go on a 4-game losing streak. Crickets.
Yeah.
So it's just like I'm caught in this weird hellscape.
Wednesday night will be interesting.
Okay, it will be.
And it is an ESPN game.
I'm glad they flexed into that. They graphics showed Dame in a Blazer jersey. It showed Giannis in a Buck jersey. It said Bucks Blazers, and then the graphics showed Dame in a Blazer uniform. And I just kept thinking, ESPN may have flubbed, but ESPN might also have been saying, you shouldn't have traded him.
Pretty much.
You should have tried to build around him.
Yep.
You had real chips. You said you weren't going to put him in the middle. You did it. But he'll be back Wednesday, and he'll get a killer tribute video.
Yep, there will be at least one.
I think there's only going to be one.
Okay.
I might be wrong on that.
They might drop highlights throughout, like all the
Yeah, like random TV timeouts, a couple of them that they have scheduled. Yeah, they might happen. But they get a win last night. Scoot gets 20 in the fourth quarter, and they were trailing early, but they came back and
they're
dominated.
a little slow out of the gates. Then Jeremy Grant got it cranked up in the second quarter.
Should be taking calls on him too. I'll add this final note, and then we'll pivot out. I want to give some credit because I don't know when this is going to end for him, and I've already texted this to him personally last year. Kevin Calabro is one of the all-time greats. This is not any knock on him whatsoever. Travis Demers has done an exceptional job, I think.
Yes.
Of filling in for Calabro while Calabro is away from the team. I've enjoyed his personal little anecdotes. He had a story about Ian Carmel and meditation last night that I quite enjoyed. And the honesty, how people say, yeah, I'm going to try that. And then they never do. And I just think his energy's been really good on the broadcast. It's been nice to have it. Again, I like Kevin Calabro. I'm not asking Kevin Calabro to go away, but I want to give credit to our good friend Travis Demers. He's done an exceptional job filling in for KC. I think him and Lamar actually have decent chemistry.
They have really good chemistry.
Even though they don't work together all that much.
Yep.
So kudos to our buddy Travis Demers, Scoot Henderson getting 20 in the fourth, and the Blazers beating a Maxey Embiid-less 76ers. Is the dynasty dead while a dynasty's alive and thriving? Let's talk about that next, but first, Swag with the sports update.
Now, from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Brought to you by Crunch Fitness. Only 24 cents to enroll this January. Find your Crunch time in Portland, Vancouver, and online at crunch.com. First on The Fan, Trailblazers take advantage of a shorthanded 76er squad, sitting Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey Monday night with a TNT showdown against the Warriors tomorrow or tonight. Jeremy Grant led 5 Blazers in double figures, 27 points. Portland outscores Philly 74-49 in the middle 2 quarters. It's their largest victory of the season, 130-104. Next up, the return of Damian Lillard Wednesday with the Milwaukee Bucks, who lost in the debut of new head coach Doc Rivers, 113-107 to the Nuggets. They ramp up the Super Bowl 58 underway for the Chiefs and 49ers in Kansas City. Starts with some bad news. Starting defensive lineman Charles Omenihu suffered a torn ACL in the AFC Championship game. He will not be available to play in Las Vegas next weekend. After hiring Jim Harbaugh as their next head coach, Chargers reportedly close to hiring Joe Horitz for their general manager vacancy. Horitz is the current director of player personnel for the Ravens, serving Jim's brother John Harbaugh. Mariners continue to add bats to their lineup this offseason. They acquire former All-Star second baseman Jorge Polanco from the Twins in exchange for outfielder prospect Gabriel Gonzalez, reliever Justin Topa, and starter Anthony DeSclafani. More sports scores and stories, 30 minutes. Jason Swigart from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk. Get to Spirit Mountain Casino, powered by BetMGM for all the pro football playoff action. Visit spiritmountain.com.
The original home of the Herd with Colin Cowherd. Weekdays 9 to noon, 1080 The Fan.
Winter is here. If your vehicle is in an accident, Life's Auto Collision Centers is ready to help. One call does it all. Life's can pick up your vehicle anywhere in the Northwest, provide a loaner,
But if you try some,
This is Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
you get what you need.
All right, welcome back in. Dirt and Sprague with you on this Tuesday morning. Mail sack coming up at 8:15, so get those mail sack questions. Any and all questions are at the mail sack. It's basically a Reddit AMA. You can ask Swag and I any question you want at the YouTube comment section or the Vancouver Ford text line 503-864-6326 or on Twitter at Dirt and Sprague or at 1080 The Fan. We'll try to get to those at 8:15 today. Brady Henderson's going to join us at 8 a.m. We've got Jim Harbaugh audio. I want to talk about that a little bit. And a little college football nugget that I want to talk about coming up at 6:45.
I love my nuggies.
Got some leftovers from Conference Championship weekend. I feel like something's happening in the NFL with certain players that isn't real, but people are responding to it as if it is. And I want to talk about that coming up in the second hour of the show. I see you a little intrigued. Like, what are you talking about there?
Where are you going with that?
It's interesting being in the middle of the end of a dynasty while seeing a dynasty thrive. And this is happening in sports right now. I don't know how much you've thought about this or how much this is registered for you, but the Chiefs are thriving clearly as a dynasty.
Yes.
6 straight appearances in the AFC Championship game, 4 Super Bowl appearances now, 2 championships, maybe 3 looming, as Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs get ready to take on the Niners. And at the exact same time it's thriving, the Golden State dynasty in the NBA appears to be over.
Yes.
Now, Old Takes exposed this because, maybe they make a massive trade. But a report came out yesterday from Shams that I thought was a pretty big deal. They are currently shopping Wiggins and Paul, but they also are open to Clay and even Draymond stuff. And when you throw that out, not that Clay is going to get traded, not that Draymond's going to get traded, but it kind of lends itself to, they finally reached the point where they've seen that this construction isn't going to cut it in this league anymore.
Yeah. And the recent adjustments to the salary cap for they created multi-tiers to the luxury tax thing. It severely hampers them trying to make a deal too.
They have spent more money than any team in that
they opened
league.
the Chase Center and it's,
their luxury tax bill's been high.
They're printing money for a while.
They are, but they're spending a lot of it, too, to keep the players intact. And Clay is at this point where he can still shoot, but he's not been nearly the defender he once was.
No, he can't blanket guys the way he used to.
Which you can't fault. I mean, when you have an ACL and an Achilles injury back-to-back, I don't even know how you stay in the league with that. And Draymond has been volatile and still good defensively, but very limited offensively outside of some passing. And so they're not good. Right now, Golden State is in a little bit of a free fall here. They are 19-24. They lost on Saturday night to the Lakers and LeBron, who are not much better.
No.
And it kind of appears that Warrior Dynasty run is done. They're not even in the play-in right now, Swag. And I find it fascinating that at the same time that's happening, Mahomes and the Chiefs Dynasty run is still in the midst of it, and it doesn't appear that that's going to slow down anytime soon. But finally, we may have gotten out of the hellscape that is Golden State being at the top of the mountain in that league.
Yeah, it's going to be really rough for them if they totally undo it. Because do
you think they'll really move Clay? I know that it's sports. We've seen greats leave, but it just feels so weird to say out loud that they might be trading Klay Thompson.
I don't know. That would be really hard for him to do.
If we were doing a show in San Francisco and this is the team we're covering, what do you think your take is? Because they're bad.
Yep.
One,
I think it's really hard to move. 2, I don't think you're going to get anything great in return. So if you're moving him, you're trying to get the contract off the books because you want to just start over again. I don't know how easy it is to do.
It feels like a really tough thing to build when you're only trying to build around one player.
Yeah.
And he's a great player. I mean, he's an all-time great player.
Yep. I wonder if they start to go back and figure out where it got jammed, how much they regret the James Wiseman draft pick.
Oh, I mean, I think you can make KD deciding to leave because his ego couldn't handle that it was Steph's team and that people weren't giving him real credit for championships. That's obviously a big deal. That has got to be right up there of, oh, we made the wrong decision.
He was what, number 2?
He was number 2. And Edwards went 1. And I know this guy's been hurt, but you know who was available in the draft? There were 2 players that I thought would have worked really well with that team, and they bypassed both of them. One of them got picked right after Wiseman. LaMelo Ball would have been really good on this team, and Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah.
He was not later, but like he was just a few picks down.
Yep.
Wasn't quite looked at in that process as a top 3 pick. That's certainly one. I mean, imagine having Tyrese Halliburton with Steph Curry.
Yep.
That feels like a bit of a cheat code. And so I think that draft pick ultimately was their big undoing.
They were so reliant upon him to be the big that would facilitate and that could help keep it going without taking on a big salary. And it never worked. It never
worked for them. Ended up being a bit of a fail. So I'm looking, Halliburton went 12th in that draft. And here is always the underrated part of that draft because, you know, I think you see some of the talent past Wiseman, who's been not good at all. I think people kill him for it and you know, kind of rightfully so. But the one bit of defense and caveat I throw in there, that was a COVID draft.
Yeah.
The process was not the same
you didn't get as much up close, hands-on
distancing and like I might be wrong, but like maybe working out with masks on. So it's like what were you doing in that process that's different from normal? Well, a hell of a lot. And so it's not to suggest that they would have gotten the pick right, but had it been a normal process, is Halliburton come in just for a workout and they're like, oh, holy crap. Because Edwards was clearly the pick from Minnesota. They nailed that pick. That was a huge part of their undoing. They took Wiseman, and in that draft, there was 2 guys after that I think would have fit in really well. Even Vassell for the Spurs. You can make an argument he's not a game changer per se. He just got a monster extension with San Antonio this offseason. So Golden State, it's interesting. In the same time, Kansas City has just continued to rise and climb and stay at the top. Golden State's been there with them this entire journey, and now you're seeing kind of the end in the fall.
Yeah. And I think for them, when it comes apart, it's going to come completely apart. It's going to take them 2 or 3 years.
Oh, yeah.
Minimum.
I mean, is Steph going to be a Warrior forever?
I think he has to be.
Okay. Sports doesn't give us that a whole lot.
No. I think it's the Reggie Miller route for him.
Kind of just be, the resume is already pretty amazing. There's really, outside of ring chasing or going to a situation that can get him that.
He's as tied to that organization and that community. And so, and as a mentor to, if he can be there whenever the new crop of guys come in, to show him what it takes to be a pro, the work ethic that he goes through, all of those sorts of things. If you are committed and you want to go there, this is what it's like. This is what you have to persevere through. This is what you have to be prepared for. This is how you prepare. The bigger question is, who's going to be the coach? I don't know how much longer Kerr holds on.
Kerr doesn't feel like he's long for that job. If you told me he stepped down at the end of the year, I wouldn't be stunned.
He looks just absolutely worn out and exhausted.
Dude, think about this for a second.
And physically, his back is a mess.
That thing started in 2015. It's 2024. That's a decade of dynasty, of peak basketball. That'll wear on anybody. And they've been able to keep it together. They won a title just 2 years ago, but it appears that it is over in Golden State right now. As Sham saying, they're shopping Wiggins and Paul. Probably going to try to hold on to Clay and Dre and see what they can get, and maybe they can turn that around. But they're not even in the play-in yet, and they don't look anywhere near like a legit contender. A little college football. And this one, inspired by Jason Swigard. Next on The Fan.
The Fan is on in your home and The Fan.
I want to talk about this athlete at the top of the hour, how dominant they've been, how historical they've been, and the dynamic duo and how we truly gauge it. There is something happening in the media that I've observed listening to podcasts and shows yesterday, and I'm not laughing at those people, but I am chuckling because I'm wondering, like, how real is this narrative that we're arguing about? And so I'll tell you who that's about, and we'll dive into that coming up. Brady Henderson, remember, at 8, the mail sack at 8:15. So get the mail sack questions in. Any and all questions you want to ask at the mail sack can be found at the YouTube comments or the Vancouver Ford text line, 503-864-6326. Swag yesterday was texting me, and we were kind of doing some show prep stuff, and he says, sent an email to the offices of the Big 12,
Big 10.
The Big 10, excuse me, to maybe talk with the commissioner, Tony Petitti, or to just in general introduce ourselves because now we are a B1G radio station.
That's right.
And as a B1G radio station, you have inspired me, Swag, to talk a little college football today. We have in our grasp a way too early top 25. Oh, I live for these. I just thought of dirt when I saw this. Stuart Mandel has pieced together a top 25. There is no USC in his top 25.
Shouldn't be.
Really?
With what?
What I find interesting is when Lincoln has a bad year, which last year was a bad year for him, it's just immediately we're out, whereas other coaches have disappointing seasons and it's just nothing.
But usually, I mean,
he is held to a bit of an interesting standard.
Where's what big time recruits? I mean, how many? Where are they at in the recruiting?
I mean, they've hit the portal pretty good. They've revamped their defensive coordinator. They stole UCLA's guy. I think that's
the big thing. Even though they've revamped the defensive coordinator and stuff, I think that's the prove it piece of it, where people are going to need to see that the defense is significantly different and better before they truly buy in.
Totally get it. I'm there too. The quarterback also threw 6 touchdown passes in their bowl game.
Yeah.
How's he do with quarterbacks? I think his track record's better than any coach in that conference.
He's got a Heisman Trophy winner and the likely number one.
He's got multiple. I find it interesting.
He just had a Heisman Trophy winner and the likely number 1 pick in the draft, and they only won 7 games.
You're right. He blew the defense last year. He didn't care enough about it. He's the most successful coach at the most important position in the sport. And I just find that that doesn't matter. It's, the defense sucked last year, so we're out. Okay. All right. I'll jot that down for the season. Where do you think Oregon is in this top 25? How high do you think they are for old Mandel?
7, 8?
No. Wow, 7th or 8th.
Yeah.
That's way higher than I would have pegged them. 4th.
Wow.
Yeah. He loves what they've done in the portal. How do you not? What they're bringing back.
Yep.
Ohio State is his number 2 team. Georgia, obviously, number 1. And Ole Miss is interesting for me in the expanded playoff conversation because they'll be in that.
They should be.
At number 5. No Washington. This next highest... I can't even. I see. I'm still stuck in Pac-12 brain.
It's going to take us months to figure it out.
Utah's at 9. I was going to say the other Pac-12
representing the Big 12.
Yeah, the B1G or the BIG 1-2. As we talk B1G football, no Oregon State in his top 25.
I just think people don't know what to do with them yet.
Well, they've lost a lot of players.
Yeah,
and the coaching staff is a pretty unproven staff. They're collectively, they've done things not collectively, individually they've done things in successful ways, but collectively we don't know what they're going to be. And I have no idea if they're good at quarterback, how the offensive line, it was good to get Josh Gray back, but I'll be interested to see because I think a lot of Beaver fans are holding out hope. This will be a top 12-ish type team with that schedule.
You'll find out very early, September 14th.
Who do they play? I don't know the schedule.
That would be the Ducks coming to Corvallis.
That's the second non-conference game?
Second or third.
Okay.
The season starts August 31st that weekend.
Do you think we've reached a point where 56 million people watched Niners-Lions, a record for Fox?
I'm assuming the entire state of Michigan is included in that.
And California?
Yeah. Well, half of California.
Probably Texas, because they just wish they could be the Lions.
Yeah.
The Lions are America's team now.
Yep.
But with college football also growing at a huge rate this year, it's making me reconsider certain elements of sports, like college hoops. You're in the thicket of college hoops right now.
I'm in the thick of college hoops.
And I'm just like, how many people are following college hoops?
I think the problem with college hoops is there's 360 Division I teams?
Yeah.
There's so much of it.
68 teams now. They get to the play-in/tournament
that it's
area.
hard to focus. I think what college football has done to the detriment of some programs like Oregon State and Washington State is they understand where the concentration lies, and they're playing to that.
That's a fair point.
I don't like it.
I don't either.
But that's what they're doing.
He's got Arizona 13, Florida State all the way down to 14th. I was a little surprised by that. I know they're missing Jordan Travis now, but they scooped up a couple Bama kids, and Norvell's staying there. I don't know. I don't look at the ACC and have all these grandiose thoughts and opinions on the ACC and how strong or not strong it is as a conference. But it's become a year-round sport with the portal. The recruiting stuff's coming up in February.
Come up here soon.
Spring football right after that in March, and then you got like a couple months of down period.
May and June pretty
It's kind of dead.
Yeah.
And then July it starts to ramp up. You get media days that happen, and then August is fall camp and week 0. So really, if you think about it, we only have a couple weeks of non-off-season college football in a year. Yep. And I'm excited about that because I follow it year-round now. 24/7, the updated recruiting rankings, the portal rankings, all of that business. I love it. So you're way too early. Top 25 has Oregon at 4, no Washington, no Oregon State, but we're B1G/Pac-2 station now, so we have to follow these things. We have to follow such
dialing
things.
in on Maryland and Purdue.
Oh yeah,
Illinois.
How can you not? I mean, the fighting Bielamas. Come on, feel the mojo of Oregon, Illinois, in that rivalry. Loaded second hour. I want to talk about this dynamic duo and this all-time great athlete. And is the narrative on this stuff really true, or are we just making it up to make it up? Hour 2, Dirt and Sprague on the Fan.
When looking
brains without a lot of ego.
An Odyssey station. Now, from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Brought to you by Crunch Fitness. Only 24 cents to enroll this January. Find your Crunch Time in Portland, Vancouver, and online at crunch.com. First on The Fan. 76ers in Portland Monday night. Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey both sitting as they will take on the Warriors tonight on TNT. And the Blazers took advantage. Jeremy Grant led 5 Blazers in double figures with 27 points. They outscore Philly 74-49 in the second and third quarters for a 130-104 win. Next up, an emotional night at Moda Center tomorrow when Damian Lillard and his Milwaukee Bucks come to town. Super Bowl 58 ramp-up going on for the Chiefs and 49ers. Bad news in Kansas City. Starting defensive lineman Charles Omenihu suffered a torn ACL in the AFC Championship game. He is not available to play in Vegas next weekend. Jim Harbaugh, formally introduced as the new Chargers head coach. And the news now is finding a new GM. Reports are the team is close to hiring Joe Horitz, who has been serving as the director of player personnel for the Baltimore Ravens, serving Jim's brother John. Mariners make a trade. They get former All-Star second baseman Jorge Polanco from the Twins. They will give up outfield prospect Gabriel Gonzalez along with reliever Justin Topa and starter Anthony DeSclafani. More sports scores and stories. 30 minutes. Jason Swigart from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk. It's Spirit Mountain Casino Sportsbook, powered by BetMGM for all the pro football postseason action. Visit spiritmountain.com.
Go deeper on the Trailblazers. The Rose Garden Report with host Sean Hyken. Download the Rose Garden Report on the free Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Ah, crap! I almost forgot! What? Shaw! I was saving it for a good time! What is it? Big Chief! The best!
This is Dirt and Sprague.
Hey, check this out. Lou Gehrig's pants. Not a bad fit. Hey, you don't think that nerve disease of his was contagious, do you? Better take them off. I'm too important to this team. Big Stein can't be flopping and twitching.
With Andy Dirt Johnson and Brendan Sprague.
Let's have a smell, all right? Ooh, wafting, wafting. Oh, everyone likes their own brand, don't they? This is magic.
Dirt and Sprague on 1080.
Those goofy bastards are just about the best thing I've got going in this crazy world.
The Fan.
All right, welcome back in. Hour number 2, Dirt and Sprague here on Portland Sports Leader 1080 The Fan, the Odyssey app, and youtube.com/1080 The Fan. If you missed the first hour of the show, you can always catch it at 1080thefan.com, what we like to call the Service Patriots podcast section. Check out the latest special offers for our listeners at servicepatriots.com/The Fan. You can reach the show at the Vancouver Ford text line 503-864-6326. They treat you right before, during, and after the sale. Visit them for more info at vancouverford.com. I want to give a quick reminder. We have a lot of things to get into here in hour number 2. That you can head to 1080thefan.com right now because we invite you to play in our first ever Fan Winter Golf Classic. It's going to be out at X Golf Tualatin and Vancouver on Tuesday, February 27th. You can sign your threesome up now, and you can choose from either the noon round or the 4 p.m. round at either X Golf location. Danny Dusty will be live. Isaac Atsuk will be live at both locations. Danny and Dusty, will be at the Vancouver one. Isaac Atsuk in Tualatin. And the winning threesome will win a free foursome at our 10th annual Fan Golf Classic in the summer. And the last place threesome gets free lessons at X Golf. Go to 1080thefan.com for more info and to sign your threesome up now. I believe there are narratives in sports that people are creating just so they can argue and yell about them, and I'm not sure that they're real. I'll tell you what that's about at 7:15.
Okay.
I want to get to a check-in with one of the losing teams of Conference Championship weekend.
I think you're more concerned about them than I am.
Okay.
I at least get that feel.
All right. Well, we can talk about that at the bottom of the hour. What job is better? The Washington Commanders or the Seattle Seahawks? Because it appears it's down to those two options for Mike McDonald or Ben Johnson, the OC from the Lions.
Yeah.
We'll dive into that at 7:45, and Brady Henderson will join us an hour from now. He covers the Seahawks, so maybe he can give us his read on, do they lean defense? You know, McDonald, He's done well against these Shanahan offenses. That seems to be what the big buzz is with him. And Ben Johnson, we've seen what he's done with Jared Goff and the Detroit offense. So we'll talk with Brady at 8 if any of that news breaks. I don't know if we'll have Brady, but we'll react to it. We'll talk about it and get to it. And the mail sack at 8:15. So any and all questions you want to ask, anything is on the table. By the way, for show purposes, I finally did my first cold plunge last night.
How'd it go?
Awful. Have you ever done a cold plunge?
No.
Oh, it's just the worst. But I felt amazing afterwards.
Other than like a great cold river on a hot summer day.
Sure, but imagine you do a great cold river on a cold winter's night.
Yeah. No, not for me.
Me and my 12-year-old, I convinced her to do it. She wanted to go first, and she did it. I give her a lot of credit for that. She was pretty amazing at it. And then I got to go after her, and yeah, it's awful in the moment, but once you get out of it, you feel so good. Something we didn't address enough, I thought, on the show yesterday because, well, there was so much. Like, how are you really going to be able to get to all of it? Travis Kelce made history.
He did.
He became the all-time postseason leader
in receptions.
He passed Jerry Rice. He needed 6 passes. He broke that at halftime. And now Travis Kelce, when you look at the record book, Swag, it won't be Jerry Rice's name at the top of a catching record. It's going to be Travis Kelce. And I told you we were going to talk about this. I can already see your body language on the YouTube stream. You have an interesting response to this.
Can you name one iconic catch in his postseason run?
So I'm trying to think of the top of my head. You asked me this earlier, and I didn't come up with one, but I can think of iconic games. I mean, wouldn't you say the Baltimore game on Sunday was an iconic game?
Yeah.
He's 34. Everybody wrote him off this year. He's got the Taylor Swift stuff surrounding his name. And he came through in a monster way. What do you have to have? 9 catches for like 120 yards?
What did he finish up with? 12 for like $130 or something?
He finished with, I had it just right here. Man, I had it. 11 receptions for 116. That's tied for his second most catches this season and his third best yardage output.
Yeah. When we think about postseason receivers, you're thinking about individual catches.
You're
Julian
thinking
Edelman,
of iconic.
David Tyree.
What's yours with Rice?
Well, the most iconic 49er, there's 2 postseason catches, and they weren't him. It's Dwight Clark to get to a Super Bowl, and then Jonathan Taylor to beat the Bengals.
Yep.
And so I wasn't the giant Niners fan.
No, you hated the Niners. That's okay.
Yes.
But you can recognize.
But yeah,
right. Like, oh man.
I mean, the year they torched the Broncos.
Yeah, just absolutely bludgeoned them.
Yeah,
he had monster game in there.
He had a monster game.
So that for you, it's not so much a catch.
So if you want to talk about one receiver for me in my lifetime that I associate with the Super Bowl, it's actually Lynn Swann.
Because of the diving catch against Dallas?
The Cowboys, yeah.
See, you're going iconic catches, but we're talking about all-time greatness here. I'm going to give you these numbers, and I don't know if these will surprise you or if you just go, okay, sounds about right. But I saw this, and I know everybody knows how good Kelce's been with Mahomes.
Yeah.
Travis Kelce now has played an equivalent. This is from Christian Guminger on Twitter. Travis Kelce has played the equivalent of a regular season now with Mahomes in the playoffs. They have played 17 games together. He has 133 catches, 1,516 receiving yards, and 18 touchdowns. Those are his playoff numbers with Patrick Mahomes, Swag. 133 catches, over 1,500 yards, and 18 touchdowns. I don't know if you're coming up with an iconic catch for Jerry Rice, but what I would say is Jerry Rice's big staple, consistency being great. Isn't that what Travis Kelce's been?
Yeah.
He plays a different position. He obviously plays it a different way than Jerry Rice did. But he's in the midst of being hated right now by some people in America because of the Taylor Swift stuff. And
I let all that go.
No, but I think it's part of the conversation with him of like him and Mahomes are now the duo. You know that, right?
Yeah.
When we think of all-time playoff duos, it's going to be Mahomes and Kelce. Once upon a time, dads in America, I grew up with this. My stepdad didn't play football much. He wasn't an athlete, but once in a while he'd throw me the football. He would always say, Montana to Rice.
Yep.
And that was a staple. Even when Young played, I think, more than with Jerry Rice than Montana did, it was still Montana to Rice. It's going to be, for a lot of younger kids, it's going to be Mahomes to Kelce. It might be that now, especially for people in Kansas City.
Brady to Gronk.
Yeah, I don't know. And that's crazy because that's another all-time duo. But you're finding like little ways to not give Kelce his due when the numbers just simply say he's been more amazing than anybody in the postseason.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember anything. I mean,
but you didn't give me anything with Rice. You gave me a beatdown, but that was a team beatdown. The defense undressed Elway as much as the offense did. You didn't give me an iconic catch. You can certainly say on the drive that John Taylor beat the Bengals, he had like three pivotal catches, and he's a master route runner. His speed wasn't amazing, but Jerry Rice was football fast. He could run a route enough to give himself separation, and he was just fast enough to end up scoring on those. He didn't have an iconic catch. I don't know if iconic catch is necessarily the recipe here. It's how you view greatness. And it's weird to say, but I think Kelce's kind of flown under the radar. And I was surprised to see how many people were surprised themselves to see that he passed Jerry Rice in that category. Because Rice is tied so much with greatness, with being the best at his position and being so successful in the postseason.
I don't know that that's one of those records that just resonates. You're like, oh, okay, well, sure. He's played in a ton of games. He's he's been available.
See, what's surprising to hear that from you is I just think any record with Jerry Rice being broken is shocking.
Yeah, well,
because he owns so many.
Yeah, they didn't have as many rounds of playoffs back then.
Certainly, the extra wild. Oh, I mean, but he hasn't had that long.
It's like baseball postseason records now, and he's the all-time hit or home run leader in postseasons. Well, the old World Series was you won your league and you were in the World Series. So the only postseason records that actually matter are the World Series records.
Doesn't his numbers at the position he plays make it more impressive or not?
No, I think you're starting to group tight ends and wide receiver, pass catchers, and he's the number one target for Mahomes.
So you're comping this
now. Tyreek Hill was before, but so
I don't know if Tyreek Hill really was. I think it's kind of always been Kelce. Hill was just like an amazing
he was the home run hitter.
Yeah, he was the big play guy, and Kelce's kind of been a staple 8 to 10 yard guy.
But it's more just a function of how the game is played now.
Man, I don't think he's getting all the media coverage for almost non-football reasons. It is funny to hear this, like you're comping it to baseball. Well, this is different and this is different. And I think you appreciate what he's done, but it's almost in a way, it's like it's still not really fully acknowledging he's been better in the playoffs than any other pass catcher. Even with the extra game, even with a slightly changed league, he's at the top of that now, and it's still like, well, it's still Rice. You know what I mean? He almost can't win, I think, in a lot of people's minds.
But he's already won.
Well, obviously.
He's winning life.
He's number one podcast. He's got Taylor Swift.
He was on every damn commercial.
He was.
During that AFC title game.
His thing with Swift is bothering people so much that you have former dropped out presidential candidates suggesting out loud that they're going to write them to a Super Bowl win. That the script's been written. He's going to win because they want Taylor Swift to be on the field celebrating the Lombardi. That's where we've gotten in society. But it needed to be noted that he is now the all-time pass catcher in NFL playoff history, surpassing my beloved Jerry Rice, who will always be my GOAT. But man, when you take down a Jerry Rice record, it deserves to be recognized, talked about, and it's interesting to think about where he stacks in the hierarchy of all-time great playoff performers. Him and Mahomes, man, if they win the title, the conversation about dynamic duos, because I don't think...
Now that, definitely, that combination overall was simply unstoppable.
It's all-time stuff already, and they're not done yet. That's what's crazy about it. Coming up next, are people really arguing about this, or are we just making up the argument? Next on The Fan.
The Herd with Colin Cowherd. This is Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
All right, welcome back in. Dirt and Sprague with you. The YouTube comments, they're always so fun and full of love and support. We're arguing about Denver Broncos Super Bowl conversations. We've got one listener who keeps just chiding me because Chauncey Billups, in his mind, is a good coach. This is only year 1 of the rebuild. I'd argue this is like year 3.
This is year 3.
But sure, let's tell ourselves
we gave him
it's
a
year
pass
1.
for year 1. There was a lot of things that didn't have anything to do with.
I think you can make a good argument he shouldn't have been hired. He had 4 months of coaching experience in general and was given the job by his former agent, a 5-year guaranteed contract. But that's a different conversation. Absolutely.
As we are evaluating his coaching acumen. I don't. First year, I don't put any stock in that.
Yeah, it's pretty. I mean, it's pretty simple. There's way more evidence he's not good than there is at all that he's good.
I don't.
I only hear from listeners when they win. When they lose 5 in a row, it goes real quiet. There's crickets. It's interesting how that works. We will get to Brady Henderson at 8. The Commies or the Seahawks? What's the better job? People respond to this so quickly. If you answered this pretty quickly too, and then we talked about it. And
my
it
gut instinct would be the Seahawks because there's so much. I mean, yeah, you make the point. Hey, you get to start from scratch in Washington.
I'm not doing the segment right now.
Oh, okay.
I was kind of teasing.
Sorry,
that's okay.
I got excited.
Hey, who doesn't early in the morning? You know what I mean? When that happens, when that goes away, you should be a little worried. We'll dive into it before we talk with Brady, and I want to do a check-in on this city. I listened to a couple things yesterday, and I just want to be really honest and open about this. Is there really like a thing to yell about with Brock Purdy and Lamar Jackson?
I'm with you. I don't know.
Why
can't we just appreciate all of them?
Well, but here's the thing, okay? I heard, and people saying this, and people saying that. And I listened to a little bit of a podcast that our Odyssey station has that's a football podcast. And this guy's going off, and he's like, Lamar played bad. Why can't we just say it? Why? He played bad. And he goes on this big, long rant. And I just kept thinking the entire time, Swag, I kept thinking, who's saying he didn't?
Yeah. Who's saying he played great?
I've been as big a Lamar guy as maybe anybody on the station, maybe as big as anybody else on the station. He played pretty poorly.
Yeah.
Wasn't playing to an MVP standard. The pass into triple coverage, even though I thought the contact was a little early, still an awful decision. You shouldn't be throwing that pass. Like, who is saying he didn't?
Now, different if you're assigning responsibility for the loss, okay. I mean, in part, it really doesn't matter.
No, but who is legitimately saying yesterday he didn't play poor? I think what we do is, Dirt highlighted this before he went out with Emmanuel Acho. Emmanuel Acho got caught like 5 weeks when the Ravens undressed the Niners. Emmanuel Acho tweeted all of these things about Brock Purdy. Can't win. Can't lead a team. Oh, looks like the pumpkin came out. Look what happened when he faced a real defense. And then fast forward to the Niners coming back and beating the Packers in the divisional round. And Emmanuel Acho, they said he couldn't win the game. It's like...
No, you said he couldn't win the game.
Yeah, and I've noticed that in this industry, what we do is we create the narrative that then we argue against where it's not even like a real thing. Brock Purdy being an MVP, okay, you want to disagree on that, that's fine. That's discourse that I'm willing to have. But like outright claiming Brock Purdy couldn't do this and people still aren't giving him his flowers, I don't know, man. I think people acknowledge that he played pretty well in the second half, and he's not the most amazing quarterback. He has physical limitations, but when you evaluate contract and value to him, he's over-exceeded all of it and actually given them a bit of an advantage. Lamar played badly. I haven't heard or know one person that's claimed the opposite. So, like, I'm almost asking, are we just arguing against ourselves because of a couple people on Twitter, or are we arguing about real things? Like, who in their right mind is legitimately saying...
I think some of it is we're filling time.
But that's a wild thing to do because you don't need to do it. That's of all the takeaways from Conference Championship weekend, it's not to go on a 5-minute rant about, can we just say Lamar played bad? Yeah, you can.
We did.
We all are.
Moved on from that. They're not playing anymore.
Nobody's giving Brock Purdy his flowers. I don't know. At one point, he was the league leading MVP candidate, and he's in the Super Bowl. I think his flowers have been given to him. I'm just wondering how real these things are versus just kind of arguing with a wall?
I don't know.
Because everybody I know that's like a sports fan, Brock Purdy's, it's a good story. It's a great story. It's Mr. Irrelevant. He's overperforming what he is value-wise, and he's doing enough to help the team win when he needs to.
Yeah.
That's about as cut and dry as it needs to be. It doesn't need to be anything else, really.
Right. The bigger question is for Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, as when Brock Purdy's contract gets to the point where you have to decide, are we going to give him the big contract for the second contract starting quarterback in the NFL franchise guy, or is the ceiling for Brock Purdy such that we think we could do better in some other fashion?
Well, but
that conversation's 2 years away.
Maybe
a year or two.
Maybe let's give it another year, whatever. Okay, if that exists, but like,
that's the conversation. If you want to argue about stuff there,
right?
Yes, we all recognize he's not the biggest, strongest dude out there.
When he struggles, his physical limitations absolutely show themselves. You go, well, this is what sucks about it, not having the biggest arm. He's like 6'1", he's listed at. He looks like he's 5'10". Like, he looks tiny out there, right?
So in terms of long-term sustainability sort of things with that 49er team, if you get to a point where, okay, we have to move on from Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey, and we have to rely more on a quarterback to do more things for us, can he do them?
Well, but you're talking about at least 2 years with that situation.
If you're in the general manager's office, those conversations are up there, not down with Shanahan. We're trying to figure out how to win the next game.
Yeah, but those conversations will involve Shanahan.
At some point, yes.
But see, this is like Chris Canty at ESPN says, now, if he wins this next game, we're going to have that top 5 conversation.
And it's like, I'm done with top 5 stuff.
I am the ranking and the all-time, the GOAT. Like, I saw WEI
I hate it in
was
basketball.
like, who's the GOAT?
In baseball.
What does Mahomes need to do to be the GOAT?
I don't care.
Yeah. Your list is different than my list, and your reasons are different than my reasons, and your reasons are not any better than my reasons are than you. I don't know. I find the discourse on it I don't know. It's just interesting to me that like we're not really arguing about it. We all kind of agree on this to a certain extent. He's playing well enough for them to keep winning. And you know what the interesting thing to me is, I'm almost wondering not to comp the career that he'll win this many or that many. He might not win any. They might lose to the Chiefs and never get back.
Yeah.
It's more interesting that if they win, does he kind of develop? Because what we do talk about is situations, right? Landing in the right spot is almost as vital as anything else for these guys, especially in those rounds.
Yeah.
If he wins and they run this back for the most part, well, does he kind of develop the Brady thing where he kind of outperforms what his measurements and physical limitations are because confidence is so important? Does he now, I'm Super Bowl winning Brock Purdy. I can make those throws, those game-winning plays. The play of the game to me, there's a lot that you could point to, but I'll go back to it. He should have been sacked. He somehow spun out of it, rolled out, and hit Juszczyk on the sidelines.
Yep.
Like that is Mahomes, a Lamar, a Josh Allen play as you can have, and he's the last pick in the draft that somehow was able to do it in that moment. I don't know what his career is going to be. I find it more interesting. Does he become so confident in himself in the system, though, that eventually when you look at Brady's early numbers versus his late numbers, he just became a different player. He just did. Success breeds confidence. Confidence can breed overperforming in ways that you can't quite measure at the combine or on, a notebook. I'm interested in that. It's not about the GOAT. It's just like, can he overperform measurements and scouting? Because Brady certainly did. And that I'm into. The whole, nobody's giving him his flowers. I don't know. I think they are. But stop listening to, national pundits who are just trying to piss you off every day to get you to watch their show. I think most level-headed people have context to the conversation. Is Detroit over it yet? Where would you sit day 2 of the work week after your team loses the way they lost. That's next, but first, Swag with a sports update.
Now, from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Brought to you by LaRock Brothers Jewelers. Save up to 70% on diamond earrings. LaRock.com. First on The Fan. Blazers took advantage of the shorthanded 76ers who sat Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey Monday. Jeremy Grant led 5 Blazers in double figures, 27 points. They outscored Philly 74-49 in the middle 2 quarters for their largest victory of the season, 130-104. Next up, Damian Lillard, Wednesday with his new Milwaukee Bucks, and who lost in their debut of new head coach Doc Rivers, 113-107 to the Nuggets Monday night. The Chiefs got some bad news as they start their ramp up to Super Bowl 58. Starting defensive lineman Charles Omenihu suffering a torn ACL in the AFC Championship game, not available to play in Vegas next weekend. The Chargers got their man in Jim Harbaugh to be their next head coach. Now they're focused on upstairs. They appear or reportedly close to hiring Joe Horitz for their GM vacancy. Horitz, currently the director of player personnel, has spent the last 2 decades in the Ravens front office serving John Harbaugh. Mariners making a deal with the Twins. They acquire former All-Star second baseman Jorge Polanco in exchange for outfield prospect Gabriel Gonzalez, reliever Justin Topa, and starter Anthony DeSclafani. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. Jason Swigart from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk. Get the Spirit Mountain Casino Sportsbook powered by BetMGM for all the pro football postseason action. Visit spiritmountain.com.
Every day, get the NFL headlines is Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
I got a thought here, Swigard, at the Vancouver Ford text line, 503-864-6326. Your point of argument, TV is baseless, is spot on, also has been true since it started in daytime 20 years ago. Somebody said, this is why the NFL moved its dates around. They want us talking about this all year long. No doubt about it. They've got us hooked. They've got their teeth deep in our neck. 56 million people watched Lions-Niners. 56 million?
Yeah. You knew it was going to be a pretty big number with the story of the Lions. I mean, it's the conference championship games anyway, but yeah.
Well, and here's somebody says for some reason
the Niners have a huge following, so.
Well, also the Lions became America's team. Cowboys lost the title this year. It's over. They're done. Win a playoff game and then get back to us. The Lions were the story this year. So I think, yeah, Niners have a big following. Lions, like this lovable, kind of forgotten about loser, and they finally broke through and they did it. And their coach is interesting and fun, and it's just a good story. Some people say, another thought at the Vancouver Ford text line, for some reason this Allen Jackson thing has started. You know, people arguing back and forth, and it's like, this is kind of what I was hitting at yesterday, and I'll just carry this over here. Whether it's Brock Purdy or Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen, you cannot name me a quarterback that is overcoming certain circumstances and winning it all. I mean, even Mahomes. I love me Mahomes. I do. I'm terrified of him. My team's going against him again. If he doesn't have an elite, stout defense this year, what's Kansas City? When his offensive line is not fully healthy in the Super Bowl, what's happening? Like, even Mahomes needs certain things to go his way to win at this elite level. I think a lot of the quarterback rhetoric is dumb. First of all, nobody can evaluate the position.
No. And I think the hardest thing to evaluate is the mental makeup, their ability to focus, lock in, process. I don't know what the best metrics are to evaluate that.
They don't have if they had the metric, Swag, they wouldn't miss as much as they do at the spot. I mean, what metric told anybody, including the Niners, by the way, who bypassed them multiple times, that Brock Purdy was the pick? He was the last pick in the draft. There wasn't a measurement for him. Now, is he Mahomes? I mean, that's where it gets ridiculous. It's like, of course not. We all know that. Almost nobody is. Lamar, he's amazing. Guess what? He played poorly. I'd still take Lamar tomorrow. If my team needed a quarterback, I'd still sign up for Lamar Jackson. Josh Allen hasn't gone to the Super Bowl. Okay, and I'd still take Josh Allen. It's kind of stupid rhetoric. It's an ever-evolving cycle of like, here's the top 5 now. Here's the new, like Aaron Rodgers, highly regarded, skill set wise, as good as any quarterback that's existed. He won it once. That's just, we all know how tough it is to win. We all know what it takes. You need line play. You need skill guys that are right. You need the coach. You need the play calling. Defense matters. We all know it. And then when the team loses and the quarterback doesn't succeed, somehow it becomes debate fodder. I don't know how that happened. When that happened, how that happened. There are X amount of guys in the NFL that we all know that if our team was needing that position, we would take them. Hell, I'd make an argument that like a couple teams and a couple fan bases probably told themselves, yeah, man, if Jared Goff was ever on the market and my team had no quarterback, like you would take it. Because you might not think Jared Goff is the best quarterback, but you know Jared Goff's good enough to get you in the conversation. He's good enough to get you to a Final Four, to a Super Bowl. Like we know this. This is known data. So I think sometimes, and I'm talking about people in my position here of like media and sports talk, I feel like we just kind of generate argument that doesn't exist. It's not real. You can think Lamar is not as good as fill in the blank 2-3 other quarterbacks. If you want, that's okay. You'd take Lamar tomorrow if your team needed a quarterback.
Yeah.
Atlanta is learning the hard way. Atlanta kind of is the symbol of this. Atlanta with Lamar this year is a playoff team. I know that. I know that for a fact. They're hosting a playoff game. How do I know that? Their division sucked. And they were in it until the last week of the season, and then Tampa ultimately got it, won their wild card game, got to the divisional round. But they posted out loud, nah, we're not interested. Okay, cool. Good luck with Desmond Ridder. So I think most of it, the fodder, it's just kind of noise that nobody really subscribes to, but we somehow kind of participate in from time to time.
Yeah, that's the piece where I tried to back away. I'm more interested in watching live sporting. People make fun of me sometimes because I'm watching the Australian Open at 3 a.m. or whatever.
It's sicko behavior, though. Let's be honest.
But I would much rather watch a live sporting event,
sure,
than get caught up in the mindless,
the rankings, the goats, the top this, the top that.
Let me appreciate something, and you never know what you're going to get. Sometimes it's a dud. I thought the AFC title game was more of a dud than most people,
and I couldn't disagree with you more. I thought it was a interesting chess match of defense and execution needed offensively.
Yeah, but
because Baltimore struggled the entire way, Kansas City struck in the first half.
Yeah.
And they had to hold on to their butts in the second half, and they were able to do it because their defense traveled well, and they showed up and got pressure.
Yep.
They made him hold on to the ball. They cut off running lane. Like, he didn't run as much. He could have – that guy – man, they want that guy to go get 150 yards on the ground with his legs. He's that kind of athlete, and they kind of boxed him in, made him hold it, second-guess decisions, and he ended up kind of cracking at the end by throwing into triple coverage.
Yep.
That was good execution by Kansas City. It's funny because these list things happen. I remember hearing last year from people, again, social media, it's not representative of everybody, but like Jalen Hurts over Lamar. Like, okay, he had a great year. I don't know how we're doing this. Are we going year to year with it? Are we going game to game, week to week? I don't know. I find the whole, how come we can't just say Lamar was bad? Everybody and their mom said he was bad.
Now, he didn't get any help from his offensive line.
Well, I mean, he wasn't the only reason they lost. That's certainly,
I mean, he wasn't good.
Boneheaded penalties and poor execution and coughing up the football at the goal line when they should have scored a touchdown and cut that deficit. You know, all that stuff, that matters quite a bit in the game of football. What job's better? Is it the Commies or the Seahawks? Next on The Fan.
Who's stinking it up?
Woo! Do not go in there.
It's time for Who's Stinking It Up, a sports lowlight that's ripped from the headlines.
We couldn't do diddly poo.
Brought to you by Three Mountains Plumbing. Schedule your appointment online at threemountainsplumbing.com.
Didn't like in the first half when we had Dame and Giannis off the floor. I thought that's when they made their little run. I know we've been doing that. I think you can get away with that against some teams, but you can't do that against a good team. And so we switched it in the second half.
There's Doc Rivers. Swag, he's 1-4 in coaching debuts. They lose last night. That was a good game, though.
Tied with Rick Adelman for the worst mark in the NBA.
Well, they're bum coaches. Don't ever hire them. They're not in my top 5 right now, I'll tell you that much. We'll give you that list tomorrow.
Boo him tomorrow night at Moda Center.
He will be here tomorrow with Dame's return as well. We have a lot to talk about with that one. That's Who's Stinking It Up, brought to you by Three Mountains Plumbing and Electrical Services. They're very delightful. Get your time back. Let the pros tackle whatever projects you need completed. Schedule an appointment online. Three Mountains Plumbing. That's threemountainsplumbing.com. Hey everybody, Sprague here. In 2024, let's not overlook maintaining your home's plumbing system. My friends at Three Mountains Plumbing want you to have more time to yourself and don't want you to have to worry about your drains, toilets, and plumbing systems. They're here to take care of your plumbing projects you need to get done around your home. My toilet wouldn't stop running after flushing. Three Mountains Plumbing fixed it quickly. And you want to make sure everything's running okay with your water heater. Give them a call. When you use Three Mountains Plumbing, you get quality service with exceptional results. The licensed plumbers at Three Mountains Plumbing can handle your plumbing problems. For 23 years, they've been helping homeowners across Portland with their plumbing, draining, and water heater issues. From repairs to replacements, tune-ups to installations, they can do it all. And now they're helping homeowners with their electrical needs too.
too. Something I need to ask about for my garage. How is there only one outlet? Three Mountains Plumbing makes it easy to schedule an appointment. You can call them at 503-714-6460, or you can schedule online at threemountainsplumbing.com. They make plumbing and electrical services delightful. Be sure to tell them Sprague sent you.
The Fan invites you to play in the first annual Fan Winter Golf Classic at X Golf Tualatin and X Golf Vancouver, Tuesday, February 27th. The afternoon round at X Golf Tualatin is almost sold out, and the others are filling up fast.
Let's go while we're young.
Danny and Dusty and Isaac and Souk will broadcast live. Fabulous prizes are on the line, including a foursome at this summer's 10th annual Fan Golf Classic. Sign your threesome up now at 1080thefan.com.
Urgent Camp Lejeune settlement message. On September 6th, the government announced it will soon begin providing fast, guaranteed settlements to Camp Lejeune Marines, families, and civilians. Awards will range between $100,000 and $550,000, with an option for higher amounts. If you or a loved one spent time at Camp Lejeune and suffered cancers of the bladder, liver, or kidneys, leukemia, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, Parkinson's, or kidney issues, you may qualify for compensation and could be paid within 60 days after accepting your settlement, with your VA benefits fully protected. You may be entitled to a significant financial award for your Camp Lejeune claim, but you must act now. Call the James Harris Law Camp Lejeune helpline now to get the compensation you deserve. We're already fighting for thousands harmed by the water at Camp Lejeune. Call now or you may forever lose your right to be awarded a settlement between $100,000 and $550,000. For your free evaluation, call 800-350-3322. That's 800-350-3322. 800-350-3322.
Don't settle for bad car audio. Get the drive you deserve with a factory sound upgrade from Car Toys. Our expert installers can work with virtually any vehicle, old, new, or even EVs, whether you want a receiver replacement or not. From a simple speaker swap to a full audio overhaul, we'll help.
The Fan.
All right, Brady Henderson, ESPN, joining us at the top of the hour. We'll get to the mail sack at 8:15, so get those mail sack questions in. It can be at the YouTube comment section or the Vancouver Ford text line. What's the better job? You got into this earlier. I was trying to tease it, and you kind of dove in.
Yeah, I dove right in.
It's okay. You're antsy and you're pantsy. I get it. Commies or Seahawks? I put this up as a poll question at Dirt and Sprague. Immediate response was Seahawks.
My gut told me Seahawks, and I think it's because at least I understand John Schneider is there. There's some infrastructure. There are some parts and pieces there. Washington is in a complete start-over rebuild, and there's just so many unknowns. I think it's different.
There's not unknowns in Seattle?
There are unknowns, but no, I don't think as many.
Okay, can I throw one at you?
Yeah.
I'll ask Brady the same question. I know he covers the Seahawks, but I think he'll give us an impartial answer.
Yeah.
And it might be Seattle. That might be the right answer here. Isn't an unknown at the quarterback position because of Geno's contract, the age, the future? Like, I know you can get to the playoffs with Geno, but if that doesn't go well, what are you doing?
At least I know I have, assuming his health is all good, and that I have a foundation to start with that can win ball games.
Versus bringing in a rookie quarterback,
bringing in a brand new rookie, even though he'll be, in theory, highly touted and plenty of, but and I think that's the difference especially because it looks like it's going to be a first-time head coach, would be my guess.
It's Mike McDonald or Ben Johnson are the two names for the two jobs.
And so if I am a first-time head coach, to have...
You're Ben Johnson. You'd rather have Geno Smith for a couple years and then figure that out versus drafting the guy you like?
Well, where do the Seahawks pick?
I don't have it up here.
I don't know if you try to trade up. I mean, maybe, but I would. One, I think if I did trade up and draft a guy or something like that, Gino, he may not like it, but I think he's professional enough and mature enough to deal with it and still go out there and do what he needs to do. I think if we've seen anything in recent times, i.e. Jordan Love and Patrick Mahomes, it's not the worst thing in the world to take a highly touted, skilled potential of a quarterback and have a mentor and not foist them with the weight of the world on their shoulders in day one.
So this is the thing about it. Getting those quarterbacks at the top is incredibly difficult because we don't know. Again, they don't know what they're doing in that league to identify the quarterback.
Right.
Seahawks are 16. That's kind of in that spot of a Penix type player who's not going to be picked quickly, but might be willing to say, we like you. We don't care about your age. Come learn for a year or two, and then we see what you are.
Yeah.
So you'd rather do that than get the second pick, have your choice after Caleb Williams, assuming Chicago makes that pick. Washington has brand new ownership that's all in, established success record as an ownership group. Did say he was going to rebrand, so I think eventually they'll stop being the commies and probably be something that makes more sense. A desperate city that's craving football to be good. Somebody was like, when was the last time somebody was like, I'm 40. When were they relevant? I mean, in the 80s, they won. 80s and the early 90s, they won 3 Super Bowls.
If I was an established NFL head coach, I had a success record somewhere else, a track record, and I don't have to worry about establishing myself. Great situation.
So so let me just.
If I'm a first-time head coach, because if you go in there and all the pressure is then on you.
It is in Seattle, too. You're replacing Pete Carroll. I would argue it's bigger. Pete Carroll won a Super Bowl, became accustomed to winning the division or coming close to winning the division.
I don't think so. I think the pressure's going to be on Schneider and whoever people think are making the calls, Burt Cole, Jody Out, whoever up the food chain, that you got rid of Pete Carroll for this. I think the pressure's on the front office
but the owner's not going to fire themselves, and we don't know if she's going to sell it.
But I think there's more support and infrastructure going into Seattle.
Jim Mora replaced Mike Holmgren, was fired after like 1 year. When you suck after replacing a good coach, I don't know if that's a easy breezy, no pressure on me situation. DC sucks. They're terrible and they're bad. They've been irrelevant since what? 1996, 7, 4, 3.
I feel like I got more support, more things to work with right out of the chute in Seattle than I would at Washington. I got to start from scratch.
Look, you might be right.
And if I am a very first time head coach,
you'd rather go into a culture.
I'd rather have some things that I can lean on and go to for some advice, some sage advice.
Because Carroll might be looming around you. We know Schneider has the pedigree for championship building. But DC is like as clean a slate as you could possibly ask for.
And if I already knew what I was doing and I had done it somewhere one time before, I say roll up my sleeves. It's like,
well, none of these guys have done that.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I think Seattle's more attractive at that position.
Really?
If I was a different head coaching candidate, then I think Washington might be more appealing where I've learned my lessons from other places. I can go in and say, nope, this is how we put it back together. I don't know that a first-year head coach has a full appreciation for that yet. Maybe he's wrong. Maybe he saw what Dan Campbell did, and he's got the blueprint and can do it.
You're getting the Baltimore-Detroit culture things coming to your team. I think that's where I kind of push back a little bit.
I feel like I got a little bit more to lean on in Seattle out of the chute than I would in Washington.
Okay. All right. Also, a lot more pressure if you're bringing Geno back and all those, some of his weapons and, young defensive guys, Reek Woolen, Witherspoon, etc. It's just a subjective thing, but I'm just always curious how people view it. What does Brady Henderson think? We get his thoughts. Seahawks are looking for a coach. Brady Henderson of ESPN joins us to kick off hour number 3. Dirt and Sprague on the Fan.
In order for
station. Now, from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Brought to you by LaRock Brothers Jewelers. Every engagement ring in stock is up to 70% off. LaRock.com. First on The Fan. Blazers get their biggest win of the season over the 76ers, albeit they were resting Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, 130-104. They will gear up for the return of Damian Lillard Wednesday with the Milwaukee Bucks, who lost in the debut of head coach Doc Rivers, 113-107 to the Nuggets. Kansas City Chiefs going to be without starting defensive lineman Charles Omenihu for Super Bowl 58. He suffered a torn ACL in the AFC title game. Jim Harbaugh, formerly introduced as the new Chargers head coach, and now reports are LA is close to hiring Joe Horitz to be the general manager. Horitz currently the director of player personnel for the Ravens, having served John Harbaugh for the last couple of decades. Mariners make a deal with the Twins to get former All-Star second baseman Jorge Polanco in exchange for outfield prospect Gabriel Gonzalez, reliever Justin Topa, and starter Anthony DeSclafani. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. Jason Swigart from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk. Get Spirit Mountain Casino Sportsbook powered by BetMGM for all the pro football postseason action. Visit SpiritMountain.com.
If you can't find the humor in today's NBA, you're doing it wrong. Heat Check with Trista Crick on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. In this wide world of sports, some stories can slip through the cracks.
Now, before we do this, let's go over the ground rules.
This is the Daily Ticker, where Dirt and Sprague visit the insiders that are covering the stories you've heard about, and some you haven't.
How'd you do that? Actually, I'm not even mad. It's amazing.
The Daily Ticker with Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
All right, our ticker stop moved back to the top of the 8 a.m. hour because we want our fine friend who lives on a boat to get some sleep in the a.m., feel rested and ready. Could be a massive day for him and people covering the National Football League. The Seahawks are currently looking for a head coach. Their last one just kind of abruptly left. Not a retirement, not a firing, kind of a weird in-between. And our guest wrote a really good piece on Pete Carroll and his lasting legacy with the Seahawks. Really good stories and anecdotes from former players of who Pete Carroll was and what he represented in his time in Seattle. And I'll never forget it because I was interning at KJR up there the day it was announced he got hired, and we couldn't take enough phone calls of people that hated the hire because his NFL experience sucked, and he was clearly bolting USC because of the infractions coming, and that turned out to be some really bad takes. Brady Henderson, our good friend up there in Seattle of ESPN, on Twitter at Brady Henderson. Brady, good morning. How has life been for you on the Seahawks coaching front? Are you up all day, every day, waiting for the news to break?
Well, good morning. Thanks for having me. Yeah, no, it hasn't quite been that intense, but yeah, there has been a lot of phone calls, a lot of studying up on these different candidates, a lot of making phone calls to try to pick people's brains and pulling up YouTube videos of their weekly press conferences with the teams that they were with last season. So it's been kind of fun. I mean, it does mean, the start of your off season has to wait a little bit, but, I haven't done this in as long as I've been covering the Seahawks, because Pete Carroll has been there the entire time. And so knew it was going to happen eventually. And I think it's been kind of fun to go through it for the first time.
I want to ask you what you think the better job is. I think this is an interesting one between DC and Seattle. A lot of people responding very quickly to Seattle. But before I get your take on that, were you surprised with how the whole Pete Carroll thing kind of ended? I said before you jumped on, like, he didn't retire, but he wasn't fired. It to me on the outside looking in, it kind of felt like a little bit of a nudge out the door, and he wasn't pushing back too much. It's like, oh, okay, and here he is. He's emotional at the podium. Were you caught off guard with the Pete Carroll decision?
Well, let's just say I had a news story ready to go in anticipation of that happening. So I was not surprised. No, I mean, I did kind of think that once it got past, I think Tuesday, I started to think that he might be safe, just because a lot of times you see those moves happen, Monday and then Tuesday. But the reality was that, he went through these end of season meetings with ownership. And, I think he went into it knowing that, he said this on the radio, knowing that he was going to be challenged about, what happened this season, just like he had been challenged by Jody Allen every year that they've been doing those. And so Was it surprising? No, just because of the way that the team, got stagnant and they had that 4-game losing streak, and it just seems like they've been treading water for a few years now. Like they were right around 500 for the last 3 seasons. They only made the playoffs once, and that was, by the way, in an expanded playoff format where, if this was back in the old format where, 6 teams make it, I mean, they wouldn't have even been in contention going into the final couple weeks of the season. And so it's really just a team that had kind of lost its way. And I don't know this, but I think what happened was, just reading between the lines on what Pete Carroll said. He made a comment on his last radio show after he was effectively fired. He was talking about how the back and forth with Jody Allen, and talking about how he wanted to fix things. He wanted to, he said something to the effect of go all the way with it, and not just fix it halfway, but fix it all the way. And she wasn't on board with that. And my guess, again, this is just a guess, a theory, is that he wanted to blow up the coaching staff and hire his own guys again. And she said something like, look, man, you've got enough opportunities to hire and fire coaches. You can't keep doing that. And I think that's maybe where one major point of disconnect was between them. But they make no mistake, he did push hard to remain coach, and it just wasn't wasn't in the cards. But I do think that, the fact that they went into those meetings, the fact that it didn't happen until Wednesday, 3 days after the season finale, I think that suggests that ownership at least went into those meetings with, an open mind about possibly moving forward with Carroll, but that obviously wasn't the outcome.
Our guest is Brady Henderson of ESPN, covering the Seattle Seahawks at large. We love having him on. Seahawks, one of 2 teams remaining in the NFL without a head coach as of right now, as we talk at 8:07 a.m. Again, as I've noted before, probably going to have something happen at 9:07 a.m. today as soon as we get off the air, and Brady will be super busy. Let me ask you that question then. What do you think looks like the better job right now, the Commanders or the Seahawks?
I think they're closer than a lot of people might think. And look, these are not the Dan Snyder Washington Commanders. I mean, so much of why that was probably one of the least appealing jobs in the NFL over the last, couple decades was because of the guy in charge. But there's a new owner there, Josh Harris, who is, committing more money from what it sounds like to the players, and not just player salary, but, different perks that make, an organization appealing, player science and nutrition, all that kind of stuff. That's according to conversations I've had with my counterpart in Washington, John Keim. And so I think roster wise, the Seahawks probably have a slight edge there, but, the Commanders have the 2nd overall pick. And the Seahawks, they pick 16th. I think they don't have a 2nd round pick because of the Leonard Williams trade. So I would say they're pretty close. I don't know if one would be more appealing than the other straight up, but then what else comes into play is, look, where are some of these guys from? Ben Johnson is from South Carolina, not too far from DC. Mike McDonald is an East Coast guy as well. So maybe that comes into it, just in terms of the individual, but, at large as a whole, which one of the teams is more appealing? I would probably give a slight edge to the Seahawks, but, it's not the landslide that some people might think it would be.
What do you think they're looking for here? I think it's an interesting thing when you're, it's not, I guess it's not really a rebuild, but in a way it kind of is. You're kind of bringing in a different culture, whether that culture is good or bad. I don't know. We don't know that yet, but you're kind of reintroducing new culture. You have staples of guys that are coming back, some studs on defense, some big playmakers on offense. What do you think that they're eyeing here? Because Carroll and his reputation and what he became as a coach, are they going opposite that in terms of philosophy? What do you think that they're eyeing in Seattle?
Well, we heard from John Schneider in his first press conference as, the top decision maker. So this was a week or so after they essentially fired Carroll. He said the one directive from ownership was to, quote unquote, maintain their positive culture. And so I don't necessarily think that means that they're looking for a Pete Carroll clone, and there's not too many of those in existence. But I think they want somebody who is, going to be upbeat and is going to, kind of maintain that style of, it's not the New England, it's not, where you're, using fear to, fear and intimidation to try to get the best out of guys. It's that you're, creating a fun atmosphere and you're letting guys be themselves. And so I kind of wonder if that's part of the reason why it didn't ever seem to really go anywhere with Mike Vrabel. That's not to say that Mike Vrabel is, Bill Belichick part 2, but he does come from what is probably the culture that would be on the opposite end of the spectrum. The New England culture couldn't get any more different than what Seattle has had here under Carroll. And so I think the search really boils down to 2 central questions for me. One is that which of the candidates is going to give you the best scheme advantage, which is something the Seahawks have not had on either side of the ball in quite a while. But which one of the coaches is going to bring the scheme that is going to help you compete in that division with the brilliant offensive minds of Kyle Shanahan and of Sean McVay? So whether that is, trying to bring in an offensive scheme that's going to go toe-to-toe with those guys offensively, or bring in a defensive scheme that is going to be able to stop it. So obviously the answers there are either Ben Johnson or Mike Macdonald. And the other question, and we shouldn't discount this because, again, the directive from ownership was to maintain the positive culture. So the other question to me is, which one of those guys is going to be the best, leader of 53 men, the guy who's going to be able to stand up in front of that room and to get, highly paid professional athletes to buy into what he's saying, to listen to him, to want to play hard for him, to want to buy into the scheme and everything. And so I don't know for a fact that Dan Quinn is that guy, but I know that he's the one guy that's done it. He's been a pretty successful head coach in the NFL, was, one late game collapse, one epic comeback away from winning the Super Bowl. I know that, a lot of players who played for him during the Seahawks Super Bowl years absolutely love the guy. And would run through a wall for him, and a lot of them would be very happy to see him get the job. And so, and the fact that he has been in Seattle's culture and, to some degree probably helped establish that culture, I could see him being, a favorite of ownership. And so those are the 2 questions that I think this decision is going to come down to.
Your buddy Schefter, he told Pat McAfee that Ben Johnson to Washington and Dan Quinn to Seattle, he bet a minimum one of those is not happening, and then he added maybe both of them not happening. The Dan Quinn one's fascinating. When we bring him up down here, and I don't know what you hear from Seahawks fan up there, it's almost an immediate no thank you. And obviously ending the season the way Dallas's defense did against Green Bay in that playoff doesn't help. But he does have the tie. He's familiar with the culture. He would kind of slide in, probably do his own thing while still recognizing the impacts that Pete had. But I kind of wonder, is he really in it? He's been available for a couple weeks. If it was him, wouldn't they have hired him?
If they were dead set on hiring him, yeah, they definitely would have done that by now. And, it sounds like they have been intent on waiting to, get a second interview with Ben Johnson and to also get a first interview with Mike Macdonald. Now, they were not able to get that first one with Macdonald during the bye week, which meant that they had to wait until after Baltimore's season was done. And from the sounds of it, they were willing to wait, even if Baltimore had made it to the Super Bowl. It sounds like they were willing to have waited all the way, for another 2 weeks to make this hire, which of course means that, if you really like Dan Quinn or if you really like Ben Johnson, not pulling the trigger on one of those guys, that waiting until after the Super Bowl could have meant missing out on one of those guys. And so, I know John Schneider said, a big part of this search was just going to be the opportunity to pick guys' brains and to learn a lot about them. But, as much as I'm sure he'd be tempted to pick Mike Macdonald's brain on what's made that Baltimore Ravens defense work, he would only really be doing that if he seriously and really badly, seriously considered him like a prime candidate for the job. And so, the fact that they're willing to wait on him, and they have waited on him, I think that's pretty telling. I mean, I think a decision is going to be made here within the next, 24 or 36 hours. But I think it's a good point that if they were so intent on hiring Dan Quinn, they would have done that by now. And even waiting this long, it sounds like Dan Quinn is going to interview with Washington at some point early this week, if that had not happened already. And so, the fact that they've waited on Dan Quinn, it does seem like they have been willing to, allow him to go to somewhere else instead.
Get you out of here on this one, Brady. A question I'm sure you've had probably too much. It's probably annoying for you because you have family and friends and you cover a professional NFL team. So I'm sure this has been texted to you and tweeted to you from people who read your stuff at ESPN.com. Get you out of here on this. What is your gut prediction if somebody were to pick your brain and say, Brady, look at this roster. What makes sense for them post Pete Carroll? You would say who?
I think my answer would have depended on when you asked me that, because my answer has kind of changed a few times in the last few weeks. I went into it kind of thinking that Ben Johnson, I had a gut feeling towards him, just because I think if all else is equal, I think you give the tie to the offensive guy, just knowing how much more those are in demand in the NFL. But man, then it's hard. You watch what that Ravens defense did in the second half against Patrick Mahomes and company. So I kind of get the gut feeling it's going to be one of those two guys. And just the fact that they've waited so long for McDonald, I might give a slight edge to him. But my guess is either him or Ben Johnson.
All right, good stuff. Really good write-up, too, Brady, on Pete Carroll and what his culture and lasting legacy. Really good quotes from former players about Pete Carroll, who that's it for him. He's done in Seattle a great run, and now they sit as they patiently are waiting to get their coach. Maybe it's Mike McDonald. Maybe it's Ben Johnson. We'll keep an eye out. Brady says, 24 to 48 hours, so we'll have to see on that one. Thanks so much for the time, Brady. We always appreciate it down here, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Yeah, you got to. Hey, one more nugget I'll share with you real quickly. Don't be surprised if one of those guys that they brought in for a second interview and didn't hire as the head coach, don't be surprised if one of those guys ends up in a coordinator role in Seattle. So I'll leave you with that, and thank you for having me, Brandon.
Okay, there we go. Wow, Brady Henderson with some great stuff there on the Seahawks coaching search. His gut says maybe Mike McDonald now. He says it's been back and forth. He leaned Ben Johnson. I'll go look at a list of the candidates with second interviews. Him saying that kind of makes me feel like, the Pete Carroll, I had the story ready.
Right there from Brady.
That was a great walk. That was a home run. It was a 3-run home run for the win. Didn't feel like we would win there, and he just, bam, knocked it out of the park. He had his story ready for Pete Carroll, so he knew. Him saying that kind of makes me think he knows the tea leaves of what coordinator it could be. A little more on that as we go along. Again, 24 to 48 hours, and he leans a little Mike McDonald on that one. So good stuff from our friend Brady Henderson of ESPN in Seattle. The mail sack is next. Get those mail sack questions into the Vancouver Ford text line. YouTube comments will dive in next. Dirt and Sprague on the Fan.
The Herd with Cullen. The Fan.
All right, welcome back in. Just me having a slight mental breakdown during the break.
That's not a mental breakdown.
I said a slight.
You're fine.
You think I'm fine, and then internally you see like the mouse and the gears, and you're like, what's going on up there? There's a lot. There's a lot going on behind the scenes. Swag's life is ever evolving. My life, I mean, God, now I might have a sick kid, so now it's like, I got to stay away from her.
That's the worst.
Well, it's not like a flu. It's a cold, but
I've been there. Yeah.
It's awful.
Are your kids, when you get sick kids, are they, because it's always, you never know. Some of them just sleep. They just sleep.
My youngest is the easiest human in the world, I think, to identify when she's not feeling well.
Yeah.
Just everything about her is different. It's zapped. And I'm like, you don't feel good, do you? No, I'm not feeling great. And I'm like, I can tell.
Yeah.
Your energy's always at 100. You always got to smile. You like to laugh. You like to be active. When she's like laying low and quiet, oh man, there's something.
In terms of caring for them, because some, they just want to curl up next to you on the couch and they're just content just being there, and you don't have to really. Others are just whiny and they need something every 5 minutes.
I'll give you a bit of a lukewarm take. I'm the whiny one in my family. I have found that the 3 women and girls in my house, when they're sick, they're A-okay. They can take care of themselves. They'll take the medicine. They don't complain. They just rest, sleep, and get. When I'm sick, I think I'm going to die. I'm like Googling pneumonia, symptoms of this, symptoms of that. I've just kind of lived with that, where I think men are usually worse when they're sick. It's like it's the end of the world. And women just tend to be like, oh.
See, no, if I'm really sick, like not just a cold where it's annoying and I can still function, but if I'm sick, I'm just in bed.
Sure, me too.
I'm just in bed.
But then when people ask how I'm doing, I'm like, I need to go to a doctor. I think this is not a standard cold. I went to Express Care last year twice for the same thing because it wouldn't go away. And I'm like, I know I have RSV. Minimum, I have COVID. And the guy comes back and he's like, standard flu. We've seen this. He usually says this to make me feel better, I think. Seen this a lot this year. It's worse than normal. Like, okay. Or I'm just kind of a whiny little bitch. Yeah, I know Joey thinks that. Swag, let's unload the mail sack. I don't think we have the time to get to all of them. I want to get back into what Brady said, too. That was interesting. That was unsolicited, dropping a little nugget of knowledge.
Okay, we'll go rapid fire.
Rapid fire. First question, what is the job? What do we think Dirt's son's profession will end up being? This is a good one. To play without Dirt is even better. My money is on historian, as he'll be growing up force-fed WW2 documentaries. Working in sports communication is also probable. Failed semi-pro golfer, also a possible outcome. What is your best guess on old Theodore Teddy Milton Johnson's profession in his life in the year 2046?
Wow.
By the way, sounds so dumb to say that out loud. By the time 2050 hits, he'll be, it's 2024? Oh, my Lord.
Yeah.
Oh, my Lord.
I don't want to think about that.
2049, he'll be 25 years old. 2050, 26, he'll be off the insurance in 2050. Although the way we're going, it's probably going to be stripped back to like after 12, you have to get your own health insurance and pay for it. Work up.
What will young Theodore Milton become?
Teddy Milton, I mean, God, could be just paving the way in whatever industries. If he's in a historian role as a teacher, my name, Mr. Milton.
Music producer, maybe?
Music producer. Yeah, Dirt is really into music.
Yes.
And he's not so much into current rap or the last 15 years of rap.
School.
He likes more 90s.
You know, the James Taylor lullabies are going like crazy right now.
Well, I texted him that. He was like, when do these sleep? I said, just play a little James Taylor in the background. Sometimes the music
Sweet
does.
Baby James.
Yeah.
There you go.
Little Sweet Baby James. So are you going to go musician?
Music producer.
Music producer. Didn't want to go to musician there, huh?
No.
I could see him riffing.
Possibly.
His dad sitting there jealous that he never learned how to play guitar.
Exactly.
As little Milton there is learning.
Yep.
I'm going to go history teacher's a hard one not to pick, given his history, the way he was raised, and how he's going to raise his
There
kid.
is that education,
big background.
blood in the family.
Massive background in that one. We got another mail sack question here. Let me scroll to it. I tried to write these down. How old were your kids? This one's an interesting one. How old were your kids, or in your case, kid, when they stopped walking around the house naked? This person is saying, my 6-year-old sometimes strips down and is rolling around on the ground sometimes like a dog.
Somewhere in that 6, 7, 8-year-old range.
Yeah. I have a 7-year-old. She'll turn 8 this year. She'll still have moments where I'll go in there and she's just playing Barbies, jamming out, listening to Disney tunes, and she's pantless. And I go, where are your pants? She's like, it's hot. I'm just like, okay.
There you go.
This wasn't me. I always had shorts on of some sort. Yeah, I don't think my wife was raised to be naked. So, good for her. That's her individuality.
There you go.
I would agree with that. I think
hopefully we curb that as she gets older.
You can imagine my panic. You're going to be 8. Stop being naked. That's just a general rule of life. After 8, stop being naked. I think 6, 7, 8. 6 seems still too young. 7, 8. When it gets to 9, I think it starts to feel uncomfortable. Like, we're still doing the nude thing, huh?
Yeah, no.
Mail sack question. Let me get to this one. Give me just a second. Movie you get most frustrated when you quote and somebody doesn't get the reference. This is a great question because I've had this experience 3 times.
Caddyshack.
Okay, what's the reference? What do you say?
A specific reference?
You say a line, and somebody either doesn't finish it or they have you say it and nobody knows what you're talking about.
Oh. Well, I mean, just about anything from Caddyshack. It's one of the most quotable movies, especially in the sports world.
And you find that people don't get the reference?
They're starting to, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wait. When you said they're starting to, are you talking about like the Schultzes and the Ortners of the world that are a little younger? And,
yeah.
I'll be honest with you. I've seen Caddyshack twice. You could probably say a line in the movie, and it would fly over my head. And then you say it, and I go, oh, that's right. I've seen Caddyshack. Not Caddyshack 2. That didn't exist.
That does not exist.
Mine's pretty simple. I've introduced this to my wife during my vacation at the end of last year, and I've been doing this for years. Some days I'll do like a check-in out loud with people, and I will just say, looking good, Billy Ray.
Feeling good, Lewis.
Thank you. I'm really glad you nailed that one because my wife was like, what? Why did you call me Billy Ray? And I went, I watch Trading Places every New Year's Eve. It's my staple. It's a New Year's Eve movie. The movie ends on the train in New Year's as they go to screw the Mortimer brothers.
Yep.
And I've always loved that line at the very end of the movie where they're on the beach and the yacht and looking good, Billy Ray. Feeling good, Lewis. Oh, it's an all-time staple of an ender. So that's an easy one for me. And then somebody else asking, what would you say right now is your deepest fear?
Ooh. Deepest fear. I don't know. I mean, the most one I get still a visceral reaction to, like immediate, is needles.
Needles still, huh?
Oh, yeah.
I don't like needles either, but I turn around.
I can't.
I just turn and don't look. I can't. If I look at it, I might pass out. I'm bad with blood.
Deepest fear.
And just the idea of that thing, it just goes in. Yeah. I heard Calvin Johnson say this last week. He said he had an 8-inch needle injected into his knee. And I just was like doing the math in my brain of, is there even 8 inches of depth?
He must have been having something drained.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he said he thought he could do it, and then he looked at it, and he just like he almost passed out
at that point.
He almost passed out. Yeah. And I would too. I can't handle that.
I don't do that. But as far as deepest,
Snakes. I'm Indiana Jones. I'm snakes. You get a snake near me, a little snake, a big snake, medium snake, giant snake. I don't
like to be startled. Like you come across one, you have a little, but once I figure out it's a snake, I'm like, okay, let's just be a little cautious here. Let's not startle the thing, and life goes on. Mostly they just don't want to be bothered. They're just trying to stay warm on a flat rock.
Yeah, cool. How do they move? It doesn't make sense to my brain. That's what weirds me out. It's the movement. It's the slithering. I cannot do it. I'm out. I want nothing to do with them. Burn them all. I don't know what they do. Yeah, they kill rabbits. Cool. I think we'll figure out population control a different way. I want nothing to do with snakes. I'm all the way out on snakes. All right, we went a little over there. I know we didn't get all the mail. There's a couple mail sack questions lingering. Again, we'll get to them as much as we can. Brady Henderson teasing something to think about. We'll get to that next on The Fan, but first, Swag with the sports update.
Now, from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Brought to you by LaRock Brothers Jewelers. Save up to 70% on diamond earrings. LaRock.com. First on The Fan. Trailblazers took advantage of the shorthanded 76ers who sat Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey as they are in Golden State to face the Warriors on TNT tonight. Jeremy Grant led 5 Blazers in double figures with 27 as Portland gets a 130-104 win, their largest margin of victory this season. Next up, should be quite a night Wednesday at Moda Center. Damian Lillard and his Milwaukee Bucks come to town. Chiefs will be without starting defensive lineman Charles Omenihu, who suffered a torn ACL in the AFC Championship game. Not available to join them in Super Bowl 58 in Vegas. Mariners continue to add bats to their lineup this offseason. They've acquired former All-Star second baseman Jorge Polanco from the Twins. They will send back outfield prospect Gabriel Gonzalez, reliever Justin Topa, and starter Anthony DeSclafani. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. Jason Swigard from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk. Get to Spirit Mountain Casino, powered by BetMGM. For all the pro football postseason action, visit SpiritMountain.com.
You're invited to play in the first annual Fan Winter Golf Classic at X Golf Tualatin. 1080, The Fan.
Our former intern, Peter, you remember him? Tall?
I think so.
He
had a lot of interns in my day.
I know.
They tend to all kind of meld together.
I know. He runs the Digital Dam account.
Okay.
Have you seen that account, that Oregon State-based account?
No.
God, you're very unplugged. I'm like, sometimes I'm mad by it, and sometimes I'm jealous of it, which is why I have therapy every Tuesday. He's got great screenshots of the show when he's able to tune in, and he found one of me when something in our system crashed or wasn't working. And it's just me rubbing my eyes like, oh, this is such a hellscape. Oh, help me out here, please. I love when he sends those to us. If you missed our interview with Brady Henderson and you're a Seahawks fan or you're just kind of generally interested in the NFL, I would highly advise checking it out at the Service Patriots podcast section.
I will get that up right after the show.
It'll be up there. We don't like to podcast during the show. It kind of, I know it does happen, but it also incentivizes you to stop listening live. He dropped a little nugget at the end, unsolicited. I was saying goodbye and thank you. And he dropped don't be surprised if somebody they interviewed twice comes back around as a coordinator. So I went and looked this up out of curiosity. Like, who could he be talking about here? I don't follow every single announcement of an interview, even though teams are like announcing, we've completed our second interview with so-and-so. Patrick Graham, Giants offensive coordinator, Raiders, defensive coordinator. Mike Kafka, Giants offensive coordinator. So the Dayball tree.
Yes.
Do you like the Dayball tree?
I don't hate the Dayball tree.
That's a good way of putting it. I think I'm in that same camp. Obviously, Raheem Morris got a job.
Hired.
Dan Quinn, I would not imagine, unless he's tired with the Jera business.
I could see him being worn out on that.
And, he's in an interesting spot, old Dan Quinn, because he kind of has that old vibe. So it's like, how long is that going to go?
Well, and you heard Brady mention how
he's 53, by the way.
How important ownership management said they want to keep, even though they replaced or they've asked Pete to move on. They want him to keep that culture, that environment in there. And Dan Quinn was here for some of that.
Quinn, for whatever it matters, and none of this, I guess, does ultimately, Quinn was spotted at the Senior Bowl rocking Dallas gear. So for now, still seems pretty committed. And just look, I shouldn't have clicked this. I just clicked off of it. Damn it, the internet. So there's a couple names right there. The defensive coordinator from Carolina, I forget how to say his first name, Evero.
Okay.
That's another name to monitor. Carolina wasn't good, but their defense actually was surprisingly better than people thought they would be.
Yeah.
That's a name to kind of monitor. So Brady kind of dropping some nuggets there that whoever they hire, they might also bring back in those second round of interview guys. That also, some of these guys know they're not getting jobs. But this is amazing opportunity to practice.
You go through the interview process to just, more people in the league, get to know you a little bit, find out what makes you tick. I think the hardest thing sometimes is to understand if you're a coordinator or something, how much influence does a particular head coach have over what they want you to do versus how much autonomy and freedom do you have to implement what you want.
Do you feel like if I gave you 24 straight hours, you wake up whenever you want, you have no work today, there's no responsibility, do you think you could put together a surprisingly better presentation of why you should be a head coach of an NFL team? I know it's kind of ridiculous, but I'm also wondering, is it hard to prepare for these interviews? If I asked you a question about team building, I feel like you could give me an answer that would make me feel good.
Oh, I could come up with something, yeah.
Like where you walk out and they go, boy, his resume's blank, but that was actually surprisingly better than I thought it would be.
But the ability to...
You're obviously not getting the job because your resume sucks.
Convince, 65 grown men, professional athletes to buy into your system.
Well, they're not in the interview process, so it's like 6 adults who don't really...
Well, but that's what you have to...
Can you impress Jody Allen at all? Because you have 10 minutes of like Jody Allen going,
I have no idea.
Really?
But I think that's more about... I have no idea what makes her tick.
Put an earpiece in your ear and wear some sunglasses. You might be able to do it for her. Let's keep an eye on that. Seahawks could make that announcement really soon. Brady said 24 to 48 hours. Coming up next, He's here. He's ready. Unknown to mankind. How do we feel about it? Next on The Fan.
Play golf where it's always warm. On 1080, The Fan.
I'm going to put a poll question up, Swigart, at the end of the show, right at the top of the hour at 9 a.m.
Okay.
And I'm going to do it because I want to use it for tomorrow's show. Tomorrow's show is massive.
Yeah.
And you might be saying, really? Non-Super Bowl week? What could possibly be massive? Damian Lillard is back,
Biggest
baby.
Blazer game of the season.
He's here.
Yep.
Probably already at home, hanging out in the crib. He's in Milwaukee this year. He makes his return to Portland tomorrow.
Hitting the wine cellar.
We'll have a full show on that. I want to bring back some audio that has maybe aged poorly or great, depending on your perspective of it. Thank you to everybody that hopped on YouTube today. It's always nice. The Vancouver Ford text line as well, 503-864-6326. Jim Harbaugh, hired by the Chargers, and he made his official debut with their video team. They did a quick little, hey, Jim, why don't you say something? We'll record it and splice it up. Here is that 1-minute video.
Harbaugh looks good, by the way.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
The Chargers land Jim Harbaugh.
I know the universe is big. The football universe is big.
Champions of college football 2023.
It's really not that big.
Touchdown Chargers.
Every job I've taken, at every step of the way in coaching, there's a connection there for me.
I love it. I see you, baby. Come on.
Coming back to the Chargers.
Harbaugh watched the long ball.
The sincerity, it was there. It just felt like home when I came here.
Harbaugh's pass. Touchdown.
It's going to be a team. Think of a family. There's going to be igniters. There's going to be leaders by example. That's mostly what I do. We're going to tackle that enthusiasm unknown to mankind.
We laid all the line. Oh, my goodness. For us.
And this is where I want to be. Nowhere else.
Let's go. Come on. Look at that. Who's got it better than us?
Nobody. You got a ball cap now. You got to get that ball cap like a baseball player. You got to. There it is.
What a weirdo. I love that they highlight that he cared so much about the ball cap, like as if that was as important as anything else.
He leaves no detail unattended.
There's nowhere he'd rather be. But bury me, I'm a Michigan man.
Well,
I love that.
College?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. He did say that there just isn't anything that matches the Lombardi, and I think he's so right. Nobody cares about that giant lipstick they call the national championship trophy. No. College is great. We love college here, certainly.
I still think in Michigan it's more important to beat Ohio State than it is to win a national championship.
It's pretty insane to say that out loud, and I don't think you're wrong. But he was able to do both this year, and so he goes out on the most top way you can. We do Zig and Zag tomorrow. He's zigged on
Zig
this.
And Zag.
Yeah, you get to Zig and Zag.
Ooh.
Dirt thinks he's winning a title in the next 4 years. Is this match going to work? Is Harbaugh going to be the same as he was as a Niner? And is this Herbert personality type with Harbaugh's personality type? Does that not matter at all to you? Or is it something you're kind of wondering?
I think they both... In terms of personality, there's a little oil and water, but I think when it gets to football and they will both nerd and geek out over football and find commonality there.
Yeah.
And I think that piece of it is going to work great.
I think you can make a real claim. I know he was a Charger. What was he? I was a Bear and a Colt, right? I think there was other stops. I know he was a Charger, and everything he's selling is like, hey, I look at my stops along the way and what they've meant to me when I'm there. Is he a Charger if Herbert's not there? Right? Herbert's a Bear. He's probably be doing the same stuff but with Chicago, right?
That was a huge piece of it.
That's what I think so too. And I know the Charger tie makes sense. They're not in San Diego though.
So
he really should be advocating for them to move back, even though
they should. I think the biggest piece is when it looks like they're trying to get the personnel guy from the Ravens.
They got him. He's the GM. Yeah.
Oh, is that done now?
Is it Moritz or is it Horowitz? Yeah.
Horitz. Horitz.
He certainly supports his brother, vice versa.
Well, I'm sure they've talked at some point.
That's what I'm saying. I bet some of that AFC title game appearance was also, hey, let's nail this down though, too,
Exactly. So how quickly can they turn over the bloated contracts on the defensive side of the ball and replace that with similar level of talent? That will be the determining factor of how quickly they start looking and feeling like a team that contend.
He didn't beat Ohio State in the beginning, but man, he certainly turned around Michigan pretty quickly. He was winning 10 games, and that was never enough. And San Francisco went from a joke to the NFC title game the next year. So, his pedigree suggests he wins quickly.
I think he's going to be given a long leash. So as long as they don't implode or there's something weird and crazy that happens, he won't he won't be on the hot seat like 2 years into it if they're still.
Oh,
8,
yeah.
9.
No, he's got time.
So,
He's got time.
but how quickly they can turn over the defensive side of the roster will determine how quickly we start saying, oh, they should be AFC title contenders.
Our thanks to the Mail Sack questions and Brady Henderson as a guest. That's going to do it for our Tuesday. Tomorrow, Damian Lillard makes his return. I'm going to put a poll question up at Dirt and
I will
Sprague.
have a stat or story.
We'll have
Might
stat
be
or story.
Damian Lillard related.
Great. And the poll question will be, you can vote at Dirt and Sprague, did the Blazers make the right decision trading him, or should they have built around him? How you feel about that this far into the year? That's going to do it for us. We'll talk to you guys bright and early tomorrow morning, a hump day edition. Dirt and Sprague on Portland Sports Leader, 1080 The Fan.
I'm Trista Crick.